What's up, Tony?
Wait, we're recording already?
It's recording.
Oh, shit.
We're good to go. Welcome, Tony from Hialeah and Devious Elements Apparel, currently living in Hollywood. And let me just start off by saying that Tony is probably one of the reasons that I ever even started a podcast. Because in the middle of COVID, for some reason, he decided to interview me.
To
give my opinions on it. I kept it very politically correct at that point in time.
I mean, we had fun. We had fun.
No, I definitely enjoyed it. We actually did it twice. The second time was spontaneous.
Yeah, second time was like, hey man, come back on. You know, a lot of people were doing live videos at that time since everybody was so secluded in their houses. So like I was trying to figure out things to do that were getting me outside of the box a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
So I tried to like do a podcast or have people come on. The first thought, you were actually the first thought that I had because you were perfect for what was going on at the time. A lot of people were like just having this terrible, anxiety and things that they were going on with. And I thought you could at least have some ease with that. No, it was great. It was great.
No, it's cool.
Even now, I'm like, I could hear myself so perfectly in the headphones and everything's like so. I mean, it's very crisp. It's very cool for you to have this podcast room and like, dude, like full circle, bro.
Thanks,
like,
bro. You're the reason why you're a major reason why this is built.
I mean, the suggestion is a suggestion. I could tell you to, quit smoking cigarettes, right? But, if you stop smoking cigarettes, that was you. Like, you did that, right? I just can kind of put the idea in. So all I could do was just, you should do this more. Or, it was a good conversation. Mm-hmm. And then that probably just sparked a little bit of a
definitely.
idea. Yeah.
And then I got invited to a Miami Lit podcast. And then again, that's when I was like, yeah, I want to do this for sure. But it's cool the way that somebody just, by what may seem insignificant to you, and just communicating something like that is just encouraging.
Right.
And how that could definitely plant a seed that grows and it comes to life.
You never know. I mean, shit, I think I'm going to start telling you things like, win the lotto.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
I'm in.
47365 and be like, and then all of a sudden, I don't know. I mean, that the impact of things like that is so incredible that I tend to not really think about it in that way. Mm-hmm. I just kind of, a quote from Jean Basquiat, artist. He said, "I don't create things because they're popular. I create things because I like them." Mm-hmm. So like if I encourage somebody or if I try to bring somebody on for like a podcast or interview, it's all because of the genuine interest in what they do and like, how they are and what they put into this world. So if it just turns into something from a suggestion, then I mean, that's blows my mind to like do it like full. So I'm sitting in a room right now. There's 4 LED lights on me. There's a whole office here, dude. Like a whole thing. Like my hair's not even, if you look at the video that we did, my hair's short.
It was short. Yeah, it was a while back. Yeah, it was a while back.
My hair's short, and I didn't have all these blue hair. I mean, it came back from back in the day, like from like my long. This is a whole other story, but it feels like a whole other world since then.
Since 3 years ago, since COVID, 100%.
Yeah. And I ended up finally getting COVID closer to the end, like now.
Sorry, I'm just gonna tell them to put the AC colder because we're gonna sweat back here.
You're going to cut this, right?
No, we just let it go. We could just fill the negative space with just breathing.
I'm just going to pull this microphone away because I sound like I'm just like.
You said, but how many things have, at least I can speak for myself. So many times people have suggested very simple things to me. And then I find myself trying it or doing it because I'm like, you know what? It's not a bad idea. Sometimes it's not a waste of my time, but it's a learning lesson that, actually, that's not something I wanted to do. I'll give you an example. I was sitting with my friend Seamus Strandell in Tony Roma's at the bar in Miami Lakes in Main Street.
I remember that place. Yeah.
And my friend Johnny Chandler used to work, so that's why we would go there.
Skater Johnny.
Yeah, we used to go there. We used to get food for free. That's why Johnny got fired. So we were just hanging out at the bar, and this was right before I was going into nursing school. And Seamus out of nowhere just starts talking about becoming a pilot. And then he's like, what the hell are you going to go to nursing school for, bro? Why not become a pilot? And I don't know why he planted that seed in my head. And like a week later, I was on a private pilot lesson up in the air, leaving Opalaga Airport. But then I was in the air and I realized like it was a young Indian kid who was explaining all the tools, the measurement tools and all the gadgets within the cockpit. And I was like, man, I don't care about any of this stuff. Like I knew it once I was up there. I was like,
the worst thing to tell a pilot while he's trying to show you anything. I don't care about any of this, dude.
It's like, you ready? You don't. Fuck this. No, but I remember being up there and just saying, oh, and as a result of Seamus just planting this little seed, I said, all right, let me go try. Let me go just try it. And then I remember I never thought I would go to UM because I'm a kid from Hialeah. Like, what the hell? I went to Miami-Dade. While I'm at Miami-Dade, some girl goes to me, why don't you apply to go to UM? And I was like,
me?
In my mind, I'm like, dude, that's out of my league, you know? But
esto no es Hialeah.
Yeah. Esto es Miami-Dade. No, esto no es Miami-Dade. And then I find myself, that actually worked out and I ended up going through. But it's interesting. Little suggestions like that.
It's the power of intention. You have that, like, you know, hey, I don't want to, I'm thinking about ordering lunch, but I might want to do tacos today. You know, I don't know. What do you think? You want to do tacos today? And you know, the thought of tacos is suddenly like, man, yeah, maybe I do want tacos. You know,
yeah, but pizza's bullshit. I want tacos
in a non-intentional way. Like I don't just go around to people. Hey, you want to make a right turn on that street right here? Like make a right turn. Like no, like, it's just life happen. I'm very big on like not pushing people. Right. I don't like to be that guy, right? Like, I don't want to be that guy that's just like, dude, what are you doing, bro? Like, how come you don't start a podcast?
Yeah.
You know, you could be doing all these other things. I usually come out more like forward and just go, bro, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Like, why are you not, you know, like trying to say things in a way that's going to be more constructive and go forward with that in a way that doesn't sound like I'm just being negative, because I tend to sound like I might be negative, but I'm more of a straightforward kind of shooter, you know?
Yeah, just more logical, straight to the point. Hey, like, this is what I think.
Right.
I think people are offended by that sometimes because they're just sensitive, I guess, and they're worried. I don't even know what they're worried about, honestly. If somebody's being direct with you, it's just their opinion.
Like what was the other day? It was when I messaged you and you had posted something on social media about the engagement and like being your authentic self.
Oh, okay.
And I go, dude, social media is not everything, bro.
Yeah.
And I just like flat out just be like, and I didn't have to put it that way, but I think you got what I was saying. Like, you know, like for
actually, let's have, because that's where I was like, bro, you need to jump on the podcast. We should talk about this. So my argument, or what I was putting out there, was basically the fact that I've seen the power of social media, and I've seen how it's impacted my business, my personal life, and different opportunities that have come across my way. And I really, truly attribute those opportunities to putting myself out there on social media.
Right.
It's done a lot for me. It's done a lot for me. Actually, today is the anniversary of the Cuba protests that happened. 2 years ago. And that was a huge platform for me because, again, going back to what Basquiat, I wasn't putting things out there because I thought people would like it. I was doing it because it was for me and it was coming from my heart.
You loved what it, and you hoped somebody would see that.
Exactly.
Right?
And it's like, I hope who resonates with me here. And then it turned out that particular subject resonated with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. As a result of it, a lot of people got exposed to who I was. And then on the background, I still was posting about my practice, which at that point, I was 1 month removed from the University of Miami.
Tremendous help for growing your business at that point.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was definitely meant to happen.
Yeah.
You know, like you were in the right place at the right time. You should be there, and this is what should be happening.
Yeah.
I think. You know?
No, and it catapulted the business. And so I'm very much, actually, people will laugh at me if they heard this, but I just got one of those Miami Heat plates, and you have to put, it's only 5 letters you could put.
So you got to be creative.
So
right?
I was like, man, what do I put? And in the end, my girlfriend was like, what are you doing? Because I put Gary V. Like, that's what my tag is going to say. So people are going to be,
And they're going to have so many reactions, whether it's good or bad. You're just going to be like, this dude is not Gary V, and why does he have a Gary? Or like,
why does he have Gary V on his tag, right? So it's going to be,
right.
And the reason is because it was just before COVID where I started listening to Gary V, and I just ran with his suggestions and his theories on social media, and it's worked.
And he's a very like no shit taking kind of person that would just be like on his videos going, you're stupid, what are you doing with your life? And you should be like, you know, I don't know, playing 3 video games a day and like doing something specific, and then tell you you're like a piece of shit about it. And then you're like, I am a piece of shit. I need to do more.
No,
with
that's not what I get.
That's
kind of
what I got from Gary.
No, man. Gary Vee says a lot of things that come just like you just said. You shoot straight, you cut the bullshit, and you just tell it like it is. Right. And Gary Vee's the same way, except he throws probably a lot more fucks and shits in there.
Right.
But beyond that, he's really about his values, kindness, gratitude, more gratitude, just. Those are the 2 biggest things.
He tries to bring in the positivity and make sure, but he has that edge that you just kind of know that he's being honest with you, right?
But it's also about yourself, because he tells people, don't overthink about the content that you're putting out. Just fucking post it. Just it's about action and trying instead of asking so many questions before you try.
Yeah, and so I started following Gary Vee around the same time.
Okay,
right, and I you know, I was looking for inspiration like we always do during the times of, you know, and I followed him to a point. I probably unfollowed him last year, and not because of what he was saying, but honestly, he was doing too many call outs to famous people.
Oh, okay.
He would be like, I was with my boy Jay-Z last night, and then, oh yeah, do this thing that you need to do. And every time I'd hear his video, he was kind of like boasting a little bit about knowing all these famous people and being friends with all these and I just can't hear that anymore. I don't, but I liked his push to like make you do, like, I like that way of like telling people. I really have respect for people who tell it what it is.
Yeah.
You know, even some of the closest artist friends that I have, if you speak to some of them and ask them, have I ever been honest with them? And some of them will tell you the time that they became closer to me is because I was being honest with them. If I'll give you an example, I was sitting with artist friend Ruben Ubiera. He's a tremendous artist in South Florida. He's Dominican, dreadlocks. You look him up, urbanruben.com, at urbanruben on social media.
Okay.
We're sitting during Art Basel. I think it's 2017, right? And sitting, he's doing a huge mural where they're all day. A lot of people on the street hanging out. Been there all day long.
Keep talking, don't worry.
And we're sitting in the car, taking a little break because he's been working all day. And he asked me about his branding. He showed me all the branding that he was going to be doing. And I looked at the branding, and instead of saying something like, oh, dude, this looks amazing, oh, great work, which a lot of people tend to tell artists that they admire or that they feel that are bigger than them, right? They blow them up a little bit, blow smoke up their ass.
Yeah.
And I don't do that. And so at the time when he asked me, what do you think? And I just straightforward to him, dude, this is all over the place. This is what's going on. How come you have so many logos? And I think you need to shorten up what you're doing. You know, you're focusing on what you're marketing and your brand, and like stick to that and kind of flow it out. And he's like, I did not expect for you to tell me that. Like, and from that time, like years later, I was doing another mural video with him that we were collaborating on. He was doing a mural at Agave Bandito in Pembroke, and I shot the whole video for the process video. And he sat down next to me. He said, "Bro, you know when I started respecting you? When that one time we were sitting in the van, and you just told me honestly what you thought. Nobody tells me that." And I'm like, "Best respect, bro. Like, I'm not gonna blow smoke up your ass if you don't do it to me, right? I don't want that from somebody else, and I don't care how big you are of an artist. Like, I've sat with and hung out, been friends. I can call artists that are internationally recognized right now that people they'll just go crazy over right now. There's people that stick next to them while they're on the street to just shake their cans, to just be like, I want to shake your cans. Can I shake your cans? Like, what the hell? And things like that or people are so, enamored by it. You know, I just tend to not be so impressed by those things. You know, I can meet a famous person and I'll talk to you just like you're normal, just like me. You're just the same person, right? You just have a little bit more money or more recognition. And I think I've always approached life like that. And I tend to be more upfront with people that way without being like, oh my gosh, it's this guy that I'm talking to now and like famous. I could tell you a story. I was on vacation in Hawaii and It was a trip that my wife and I took from her job. Her job paid for it. Beautiful trip, amazing trip. It's one of the best places in Hawaii, the Grand Wailea. I think they shot an Adam Sandler movie there called Blended or something like that. Just Go With It or something like that. Beautiful place. I'm like the only black guy there, right? And I'm Puerto Rican, I'm mixed, right? But there I was the only black guy in some rich resort. I see this black guy all the way on the beach. Tall black dude. And I kind of give him the nod. Like I'm on the beach, I don't see any other people of color, right? I give him the nod. He gives me the nod. Like, I see you, bro. I see you. I know. I see it, And so later on, I go back to the bar. Guy walks up and we start talking. And he's like, hey, man, what's up? What do you do? And, we have a long conversation about, what type of job we do and whatever. Excuse me. And, halfway through the conversation, he's sitting there with his girlfriend. We're just having normal life conversation, nothing out of the ordinary. He leaves to go to the bathroom, and the waiter comes to me and goes, do you know who that is? And I go, no, bro, who is that? And he's like, that's James Worthy. And I'm like, from like the Lakers? And he's like, yeah, dude, like that's James Worthy. Gray, salt and pepper beard. And he's with his girlfriend. Now, I know this information now, right? He comes back. Mm-hmm. And now I all of a sudden have to be like, I don't know who you are, right? Yeah. Because I don't want to be that guy that, oh, dude, all of a sudden now my demeanor changes. Yeah. Now I'm talking to him as if I want to like be his best friend. I'm not going to do that. So I act like I don't know who he is. And he keeps talking to me. We're having a good time. His girlfriend's even getting my wife to take pictures. Like, can you take pictures for us? And every time we take a picture, I go to my wife, you're taking James Worthy's picture. And I'm like, this is cool, right? And so later on, people are coming up to him at the bar. Like, he's like, oh, sorry about that. Hold on a second. People are wanting to take pictures of them. And I have to act like, I don't know, what is going on here? And so in conversation, we're talking, and he says, oh, in just passing, oh, when I was a Laker, this was happening. Mm-hmm. And I said, Laker?
Oh, you play basketball?
What do you mean Laker?
What's a Laker?
What is basketball? I have to like be real, and he's like, oh, I played for the Lakers for I don't know how many years, and I had championship. And I go, no way, bro. Like, what's your name? He's like, what's your last name? He goes, Worthy. And I go, James? And he goes, dude, you have no idea like how refreshing it is for somebody not to know me. Like, he's like, you have no idea. I really enjoyed your conversation, and we were having a good time. We were just there's no basketball talk. We weren't talking about like trying to hook up with some business idea that I could, we were just people sitting at the bar having a good time on vacation, right? And he goes, dude, this has been one of the most refreshing conversations I've had in a long time, because usually people know who I am. And he said, I really appreciate that you didn't. And so that to me was really a spark to say, I don't really need to give a shit who you are, right? Nobody's more important than the person that's not on this vacation or somebody that's sitting at home that can't afford this. You're just another person that has another status in this country, right? So how do I treat you? And I'm not going to treat you any different. And I think that that's paid off to people see that genuine, vibe that I give off. And I think that it's transferred into my art, to my business. Just being able to straight up tell somebody, look, I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to make you do this, and let's see what we can move on. And just straight up having a conversation about it, Yeah. I'm not always the best communicator as far as, telling my feelings and coming out with it. I definitely can be blunt, but, I did some, I did counseling this during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And I did BetterHelp. I signed up for BetterHelp. I think during the pandemic, it was I think a lot of stuff was happening with politics, very charged, Donald Trump stuff was going on. I felt very invaded, kind of. I felt very like, you would see me how I would post it. It was very aggressive. It was very like if you're doing this and I don't have any respect for you, like type of post stuff. Yeah. And I was very I was very affected around that time. I found myself, I would always talk to myself, but I never had gone to a point of having so much anxiety that I just kept doing it and I couldn't stop. Mm-hmm. And I would do that so much that I was finding myself talking to myself all the time, and almost like if I was having a conversation, not like, I would
do you feel like you were just too involved or too invested in the news and of the politics of the day, and that's why it was consuming way too much hard drive space for you?
I think in a way it was very, I did this. I wasn't even a political person before. I'd never voted before Obama. I didn't listen to politics. I was one of the people that are like, dude, I'm not listening to this shit. Why am I listening to this stuff? And I got so involved with it to be in the know because of Obama becoming president being such a momentous, like, inspirational time that I didn't want to not know anymore, right? I didn't want to like be the ignorant person going, what's happening in the Senate? What's happening with the GDP? Or like, what's happening? I could even say GDP and I haven't, before I wouldn't even, who am I? You know what I'm saying? And I think that it turned me into kind of I would want to keep up with it so much that I didn't want to miss anything happening in the world because I didn't want to miss something that might affect me, maybe.
Do you think that was, I hear you, I'm listening to you talk, and I'm just thinking, wow, that's the intention of the media, is to get you so emotionally involved. Maybe you were very drawn to Obama because he is a man of color.
Right.
You could relate
totally,
to him. Young, well-spoken, eloquent, charismatic. Didn't matter what was going on in the background in terms of policies and shit. You're just like, dude, this guy is somebody I want to listen to.
Inspired me, right? He made me feel like good.
So then does CNN then take that? They know that they have this audience, and now they show you this oppositional figure that stands for nothing that you like or enjoy, and then they as much as they say that they were against Trump,
yeah,
the amount of press that they gave him just elevated him more and more and more.
I won't say that the news isn't informative. I won't say that the news and not all media's right. Not all media, right? I wasn't just sticking with, let's just say, CNN. I was looking up things like I really look into like I had friends coming up to me saying, dude, let me show you these crazy hieroglyphic, prints that I found that could be like, look at all this controversy or like all these like things that are happening, all these theories that like people are like trying to put out there. And I would bypass all that crap that I would hear and I would look it up and I would find real resources. So I was very informed. I just, like, every day for Trump was like a mess. Every day was just like bombs of everything happening. And I was so just every day, what is going on? There was no avoiding it. And so social media, I know we're starting off the conversation with social media, but for
I was going to get back to that.
But we can, yeah. So at the time, not that it would affect my everyday, but since my wife and I work at the same place, we work from home. She works in a different job. I work in a different. We have totally different offices, but since she's my only coworker in the office, then what happens when you go want to talk to somebody? I'm gonna go talk up my wife about all the crap going on, right? And so it would happen all the time, like, and she'd be like, hey, I could talk to you about this, but my wife is blonde hair, blue eyes, white. She's from South Dakota. Like, she's not from Miami. She doesn't know what it is to be the oppressed, whatever feeling of the things that I was feeling. So it was very hard for me to relay the things. She can understand what she does. God bless her, what she can, and she really does a good job. But I needed somebody to talk to. And so I needed to be able to talk on a normal basis to kind of just get it out. And because I was doing that and I would go off in the tangents of kind of being a little manic. And I would just this and then blah, blah, and I can't believe this. And I'd be like, and by the end of it, I'd be pissed and I'd be like worked up in my head, just like all over the place. And I didn't want to feel that way anymore. And I told her that, I thought maybe for a second, like, man, like, do I have something imbalanced with me if I'm always talking to myself? And I think that it was the help of like your people like you that kind of make things easier for people to not feel like that's such a stigma anymore, And I went into it and I did 9 months of, I think it was called sensory something therapy, and it basically was every time I feel like I'm stressed, I had these objectives that I would have to do. And I'd have these things of like things that would make me feel good, right? If I felt stressed or I overly talked about something, I calm down. I can't change anything. I can't change what's happening out there. I can only change my perception. And then I would do one of my objectives. Things that I like to do is draw. I sit and I just paint on the wall, right? Just doodles. Do that for hours and I get my mind off of things. Play some video games. I'm a big video game guy, but like I'll play like Grand Theft Auto and I'll just like run from the cops for like the next like 3 hours, right? Just to like blow some steam, right? Like, and I'll be like, ugh, better than hitting a punching bag. I'll tell you that right.
Yeah.
So that type of stuff I would go to the beach. One of my favorite things to do is go to the beach. I love the beach. I will go to the beach, breathe, and things would start getting more paced to not be so anxiety filled, right? Eventually I would use that and it helped me. I mean, I would know that I couldn't change family members' thoughts on politics. I have family members that some of them are South Dakota, very conservative. The conversations that we have are not, I can tell you right now, about anything about Obama or anything like that.
Of
like,
course not.
I keep that all to myself when I tend to have conversations with them because I don't want to go past, So that was affecting me. How can I feel like people around me aren't people agreeing with Donald Trump and feel like people are against me, right? And again,
because the feeling is that of if they're supporting him, they're against me.
Because they don't see my pain from what he's doing. They don't see my oppression for George Floyd thing happened. A lot of tension was going on. I mean, people from all colors and people from all walks of life. You were kind of setting like a foot in the sand going, if you're not for this, then you're not for this. There's a lot of things that were happening that I think even my wife, she would ask me, do you feel this way? Like, have you ever felt pressure every time you get stopped by the cops or something like that? And I'm like, yeah, every time. Like, has my mom or dad ever had the conversation with me about cops and being the color that I am, being mixed? Most people look at me and think I'm black. I'm Puerto Rican. So I speak fluent Spanish, but I could also have that very perfect English. Like I've, been here. So people don't usually know what I am. They just assume being from Hialeah, a negrito, right? I'm just a black dude, bro. Like I am. My neighborhood in Hialeah. Can you bleep this out? Can you please bleep it out? But my neighborhood nickname was Nigger. That was my neighborhood, not nigger with an A. It was Nigger because I was the only black dude. And it wasn't because they were calling me a racist slur. They're Cuban dudes like that I live next to, right? But I was the only, and they're friends, but that was like a neighborhood thing that so I grew up with a lot of different.
Yeah, the word doesn't carry as much weight in that neighborhood because they felt like it was just a loose term that they could use. Now you take that same term and use it in a black neighborhood and you're a white guy, right? And you pronounce it with a hard ER, then my friend, you're in deep shit.
Right. No, and I got, I didn't even think about until later when I got older, and I thought, the term of endearment I was getting from my friends in Hialeah or friends people that I don't even see now. They're just neighborhood friends that I was associating with. That was just the neighborhood vibe. But because I was my mom's black, but she speaks fluent Spanish. Like you wouldn't think that she's Spanish, but people in the neighborhood always just kind of assumed. And so I grew up with that kind of stigma that I just got used to being, they're calling me nigger, but that's what it is, bro. It's just, he's just joking, bro. And I didn't, not till later on that I thought, like, damn, he was calling me nigger, bro. Yeah. Like that wasn't cool no matter how endearing it was to me. And I remember people used to come hang out and he'd be like, oh, this is my homie. This is Tony. We call him nigger because he's the only black dude. Like literally that was the introduction. And people would get weird, whoa, bro. And they'd be like, no, it's okay. He's used to it. That was the way I grew up in Hialeah, in my literally in my neighborhood. But outside of Hialeah was not like that. The welcomingness of people, many Cuban friends, so many Cuban friends that I still say que hola, bro, I'm not Cuban, bro, but I speak like I'm from Cuba, right?
Yeah.
I got that accent. Oye chico, I got that, and I'm not. That's not what my parents grew up telling me, bro. That's Hialeah. So I love the people from Hialeah. I just know that going back to the way that I was feeling, like people didn't realize what they just thought I was just the same how they grew up in Hialeah, right? Mm-hmm. This is just the same, but they've never been called something like an N-word, right? They're not going to be called.
I was going to ask you, besides therapy, how have you been able to manage that that entrenchment in day-to-day politics? Are you still listening to politics every day? Have you separated yourself from it a little bit so you're not so emotionally charged by it?
I think that after the cycle that I did for my sessions, I think that at the end of it, I wasn't as bothered anymore, and I didn't have to go off into like these tangents of things that I could then bring myself back before I would do that. And my wife would say, "Man, like you could really tell like you don't go off into these things anymore," and find myself in the kitchen like with my hands up going, "There's people," and then and like go, and she's like, calm down, bro, like it's okay. And I'm like, I felt so not in control, and now I don't let it get to me anymore. I don't have this like, the more I did it to like not feel personally attacked, then the more I knew I was taking it back. Like they're not going to change what I'm doing, and I'm not going to be bothered if they feel like they want to, think about me in some way, or, how their opinions, their opinions, they can't change my opinions. I'm not going to change their opinions. And so I went from trying to convince people to go to like away from Trump to just saying my opinions about it. Like there was no longer of like, let me convince you of like why. I have a conversation about, and this about numbers of politics. I would just say, hey man, look, whatever you feel is whatever you feel, and that's your opinion. I can't say anything about it, and I respect that. This is how I feel, and I'm not gonna let it affect me how I used to. And so that's really helped me to, I go to the beach a lot more often, but that's one of my objectives. I keep it in my head, right? Like I have these things that I do on a normal basis that I try to just kind of keep away from like the manic stuff, and I think that it's really helped me to focus and not be so, because that would stop my day work. I'd put the TV on, and I still watch politics now. Like I still watch what's going on. I don't watch as heavy as involved. Like I know what to watch to not be so swayed, but I know that it's also for ratings too, and there's also like pushing different, like for one thing, I don't need to hear about Taylor Swift and her things on every single news story, right?
Why? Taylor Swift has been involved in politics lately?
No, but she's been doing great, but it's on every single news channel, like Taylor Swift's concert and Taylor Swift. And I'm like, dude, like I don't care about Taylor Swift, but they're reporting. I just know that I'm not diving into the full madness that's going to get me bothered about it, which has brought me back from not being so, not taking things so personal from people too. Like I would definitely help. It definitely help to respect other people's opinions and let them kind of be how they are, even to the fact of like calming them down and be like, you can feel this, like, man, like this is not me.
Yeah, without feeling like it's a personal attack on you just because it's their opinion.
Right.
Like somebody's opinion, and I'll use the George Floyd example. You could have whatever opinion you want, right? But if you and I sit down next to each other and we watch the video and we watch all from different angles, everything that's going on, objectively, like forget about everything else that's gone on. If you could just mute everything out, let's watch this video together and tell me that this is just, then we have an issue, right?
Right. If all logic and rationale leaves your body and I can't have any type of like thought process with somebody and have a conversation, I know that I'm not going to sit there and try to argue with them.
Yeah.
That used to happen before, and I go deeper into this whole now, bro. Like I'd much rather have you have your opinion. And I think I've ended relationships because of this, and I've gained relationships in ways that it's helped my being more forward with people. Like, again, like you could feel this way. It's not going to affect me if I feel a different way, right? So, and I can't change how you feel about this. So that thought has really helped me, like to like not be so involved, dude. Like getting personal with like all the people I work with, and like I know that they have their own opinions on things, and I try to respect anybody's opinion. Mm-hmm. It's really matured me, I think, from the last 3 years.
I think just as you get older, letting go of people who have any sort of negative impact on your mental health, you learn that it's very healthy and good for you to just let them go.
Right. And even to the way that like it's encouraging me. Like when I hear something that would usually get me flustered, I take that and I use it in a way that, I might have more inspiration in something else. Maybe I'll create something based on somebody's thought. I'm not letting it like bog me down into like have these like constant just thoughts I just can't get out of, right? Which was the whole problem in the first place. And I think that, definitely I've had a great experience with, mental health and trying to have some counseling. And if anybody, wants to try to at least do that, I definitely suggest at least having the session. My wife has done it at some point because she was getting a lot of busy anxiety from work, and she has to do a lot of things, and she also did something like that. If I'm sure she won't mind me saying, but it really helped her as well. She really had she really felt like she had to do more things all the time and stay working all the time. And people would tell her, bro, like calm down, like you don't have to do this all the time. You don't have to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning because there's other people there to help you out. And it's really helped her in that way too.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I honestly recommend that anybody sees a therapist, even whether things are going good or bad, just to have an objective person as a sounding board, that obviously a legit therapist, not just some random person online that calls himself a life coach or whatever it is, somebody with some sort of background in psychology that really is willing to listen and understand your life perspective,
right?
Maybe challenge you, and just to hear your thoughts a little bit more. There's a lot of things that we think about in our heads that we think we just know. But when you begin to lay out your logic, when you're questioned about it, it's really interesting what you learn about yourself. Like without any feedback except responding to questions, all of a sudden things in your life begin to reveal themselves to you. You have these epiphanies that your therapist isn't even aware that you're coming to these certain conclusions and just new ideas that are coming out because you're vocalizing things that you've just said internally in your mind over and over and over and over and over.
Right.
Now you're describing, explaining how you develop those thought processes. And it's like, oh, wow.
Once you get out of that, and I think once you learn the formula and you can kind of know what your reactions are and the things that affect you, I think that you're just so much of a stronger person after that.
Yeah, for sure.
And even for the relationship I've been building now and for my business ongoing, I think my perspectives on my business has even change in my like goals. But
let me ask you about that, because that's what we were getting at before. Was my argument is that social media has been this mecca for me, where it has really opened up a ton of opportunities and given me a platform where there's thousands of people that view my stories, as well as reels or whatever I put out. It gets consumed. I've learned to play with social media to get more exposure. I'm still constantly learning, experimenting, and very active on social media. And I've seen the return on investment, which the investment to me is $0 because it doesn't cost me anything. And if I rewind to when my father opened up his tire shop in 1989, had he had these opportunities, how much faster would that shop have grown had he had this free access to a phone where he could post and just tell everybody about what he's doing? And then your argument is basically... No, I disagree. I disagree, and that's stupid. No, I'm kidding.
No more views. No, I'm like, I have.
What was the message you sent me?
The message was that social media isn't everything, and it was kind of like just straight up because I find myself from the beginning of the pandemic starting to do like the live videos, right? When we were doing that, which I'm totally grateful for doing those, but at some point I have to reevaluate and say, the things that I'm doing, are they making me money or are they just spinning my wheels more?
Yeah.
And what I've found from social media, or at least from Instagram, is that because I'm very active on Instagram, but I brought it back. Instead of posting every day like I used to, then I'll post like once or twice a week. And instead of creating reels specifically for what IG pushes to you, right? Because you're constantly being pushed from IG. Do more reels, do more IGTV, right? Everything changes every freaking week, right? Now, perfect example, okay? Now, what are we dealing with Threads right now? Twitter is getting pushed on. Yeah. I love that answer to you. Like, I don't even care. Which I've seen lately that the new Threads program, the app from Instagram, is now kind of a sub-Twitter. It's like a Twitter Lite.
It's a sub-Twitter, and I don't see how it blends into Instagram at all. I don't really know what they're trying to do, except it's a pissing contest between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. I think it's ridiculous, but maybe I'm completely wrong.
No, I totally agree with that. I totally agree that this is just them trying to see who pisses louder right now, right? And now we are hamsters on the hamster wheel that are pushing that, right?
Of course.
So they have to, Mark Zuckerberg has to push for engagements. He has to push for views, just like we do. Like, so if their investors are going to give them more money, if they put up their numbers for their projections for the next year, right? They meet their goals, they go higher. How do they do that? When IGTV came out, right, from Reels, then they pushed IGTV. All you saw was IGTV. Make an IGTV video, and then 2 weeks later or a month later, it's something totally different. They're keeping their numbers up by changing the rotation and keeping you at some new view. And what happens when there's new Reels that they tell you to push? The Reels get pushed to the top of the views, and the people who get ads done, they pay more revenue, they get pushed to the top. I started the pandemic with almost 18,000 followers. Now, I hate to talk about followers and what it represents and what it is, because I've totally gone away from thinking that way from before. Because as I used to nickel and dime who was following me, I lost 10 followers this week. I gained 10. I need to get more. I need to post another video. Meanwhile, IG is telling me you should post every day. You got influencers out there going, you want to do an IG hack? Play this trending music, make 10 freaking videos a minute, and spend all your time on social media making videos for IG, basically. So I tend to not feed that beast as much, because most of my sales and most of my interactions come from Google. Google is the largest search engine in the world. If you're a business and you are not set up with correct search engine optimization, you're not even scratching the surface. You're just kicking tires and throwing flyers all over the parking lot. It's the same thing. You're not going to hit your family members up for clothes all the time. That's not a long lasting business. So how do you do that? And what I've found is correct back end stuff to my website, correct marketing, yes, but not in a way that like I'm obligating all my time to Instagram as a whole, right? I think at some point, one of my friends said, hey man, like they're paying people to make reels now. If you make like 50 reels a week or something, they'll give you $100. And I told him, dude, how much time does that take out of your day to then work for Instagram's algorithm? You're not working for yours. You're trying to make things to make Instagram do better, right? So how do I do things in a way, for at least for me, for sales, to have a return on revenue?
Of course.
You spend money on a whole bunch of different things, for the website, for the marketing, I take my own photos, I do my own website, like everything. When I go to post, 10 likes. What the fuck?
That's not going to get you any traction.
So that, from the beginning of the pandemic, starting off with 18,000 followers on a growth, all of a sudden, Instagram had a huge drop. I don't know if you remember. All these accounts were getting dropped and blocked.
Oh, I got blocked. You got blocked, I remember. Yeah.
So my account from that time has dropped from 18,000 to like 13.3 right now, right? I stopped paying attention to that, because the more I paid attention to it, I was like going down this hill of like, I need to go make more than I was getting. And that just had me spinning my wheels constantly. Like I was sitting all day like this on TikTok trying to make a video that was never going to bring me any revenue.
Yeah.
So for me, we're going back to like the thought that I've felt for social media is that I think that social media is a great tool. I think that Instagram, things like that you can push your product, you can show your genuine self, you can have that presence. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're working against ads and working against influencer accounts, which deal with huge amount of bots.
Not only that, you're working against the amount of content that exists every day that is bombarding every individual's eyes, right? So the question is, even if you are going to be involved in social media, are you doing the right things to get that attention, or the attention that you want, whether it's to have a conversion and make a sale, or to get a patient in the door? And I guess the way I've learned to play with it is more so show parts of myself, be vulnerable, be a little bit transparent, but you're only as transparent as you want to be, right? Because if I show you 12, let's say I put up 12 stories in a day that are 20 seconds each. I mean, you don't know my life. You know those 12, 20-second clips that I gave to you. Like
your other guest said, the highlights of your day, right?
Yeah, you know, sort of the highlights, but then you're giving people at least a little taste of who you are, what your personality is, what you're involved with day to day. And And I think people are gravitating and trusting that a lot more,
Right.
Which is kind of weird when you think about it, because I'm telling you in the same breath, you don't know much about me except what I'm putting out there, but in the same breath, you feel like you know me.
Right. Which causes this like weird, like people know who you are and have this ownership over you somehow, right? But they don't know you, right? So you kind of have this like for what you do for a living, right? I think that certain industries, it's detrimental to have social media. You have to. I mean, if you're promoting this type of well-being and having, people say hope dealing and things like that.
Hope dealing. Cool.
I don't like using that term because it seems like it's like you're just dealing hope and you don't have anything at the end. You're just hoping. You're not really. Yeah. So you have a lot of tools at your hand to help the different types of businesses you have. I think that when I see people, when I see the algorithm numbers that pop up, for all the views, because I look at my numbers for the business too. Every week I have losing. I have more losing than gaining, and I have a lot of gaining. But again, it's like there's thousands of bots on social media that are constantly changing in between all these accounts that they follow just to get more views for their accounts. You have influencers that pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get more engagements. It's like you're running, when I say you're running 1,000,000 miles to gain 2 inches.
I think what I'm gaining right now from this conversation, right?
Not you, I'm saying.
No, but I'm gaining something from this conversation. Number one is I only have one guy who's running my SEO. And shout out to Polo. You've been doing an awesome job.
But does a fantastic job.
Yeah. So he's the one who looks at the website, the UI, it's UX. Is it called UX? Yeah. Where like the positioning of the buttons of the website, stuff like that allows for proper
heat
flow.
maps and making sure that people are not scrolling through.
He's responsible for all of that stuff. Number one, I'm thinking, damn, I would love to get a second opinion of somebody who knows and just could support Polo, right? To say, are we doing everything we should be doing with the money I'm investing monthly on Google Ads and on SEO and UX, stuff like that.
Right.
And then the other part is I still have a strong belief in social media, right?
Totally, yeah.
And it's because even if I have only 1,000 views on my stories, which I could tell you, it's probably where I'm at.
You can see the growth from what you've been doing on social media.
No. But what I'm saying is, like, when you look at the data, like you were saying, the day-to-day views fluctuate in terms of what you're posting and how you're posting and stuff like that. So I think my, today, for some reason, I got like 700. The last 24 hours, my views on stories have been like 700 to 800.
It jumps all over.
And then it goes to 1,200, let's say.
Right.
But I have 7,000 followers, right? Which isn't a lot. But what matters is that from those 7,000, I'm constantly just sprinkling parts of my life, giving some education, giving some hope. So give value, education, and then boom. Now I'm asking, this is what I sell. This is my business. My business is mental health. So if you know somebody. So the more that I put that out there, and it's always sprinkled in because those 1,000 people that are there today are a different 1,000 tomorrow or a different 500. And I'm speaking to anybody, whether you have 100 followers, 1,000 followers, or 10,000 followers. I think the more that you attach to that audience, the more that they're going to be looking at your stories, they're engaged. Now, depending on, let's say if I'll use a line of apparel, if those 100 people know constantly, oh, wait, Tony sells clothes, Tony has clothes, Tony's a designer, Tony does shoes, Tony does. So now I hear about somebody who's into clothing or fashion, Tony should pop up in their head right away. Unfortunately, people hear about depression, divorce, financial issues, and I pop into their head, which is exactly what I want because I want to be the source of help and hope for that person or through my company.
Right, just like your dad's tire place. If people need their tire changed, you want them to get that to be brought up.
So I tell my brother, I'm like, dude, you have a gold mine with this tire shop. You've been here since 1989. If you were more active on social media, and even if it was just funny skits, but people should think, I need a tire, I go see Benny. Everybody who's on your social media should think tires and associated with that person.
I think you absolutely have to have social media nowadays. Yeah. It's like living in Florida without a driver's license, right? Like you have to at some point drive your car somewhere, right? I took an Uber here today. I live in Hollywood. I'm not driving to Miami. It's easier that way, convenience, right? So, having to. I just lost my train of thought.
So about social media, that you need social media.
So for me, I look at my numbers too as well. So like for example, I dropped off of Twitter a while back, And a lot of people are dropping off of Twitter because of the political and whatever. And as I don't agree with that, right? With what Elon Musk was doing or whatever, and how he was approaching things, and his public thoughts, Twitter has never brought me anything from my analytics. Never. I've looked at 7 years of analytics for Twitter, and not a single customer has come to my page to purchase something from Twitter. So I made a decision to go, this is not financially helping my business. It's something that is just another thing for me to post on, which I wasn't really posting directly on Twitter. It was subbing from Instagram. So anything I posted, but it was getting feedback. People were writing responses. I would never check it, right? I just knew it was there and I had to have it. And at some point when I actually do the numbers and say, what is this really doing for my business? It wasn't doing anything good. And so I'd rather just opt out of it. So I got off of Twitter because it just wasn't doing anything for me. And so I thought that same thing. Okay, well, what other program with the same thought of Threads coming right out now is just another fucking thing to waste my time. And I was on TikTok for a little while. And honestly, the only reason I went on TikTok was not to do all these videos and things, which I did, but I wanted to learn the process of what was changing, right? Because if you didn't know how to deal with the impulsiveness of the way that TikTok is.
Yeah, the way that people are consuming.
The quick way of these fast videos and fast consumption, then I was going to not know how it is to move to the next step of how social media was evolving, right? So I got onto it to see what that was and to understand what it was to post on that way. At some point, I was wasting my time, bro. And I was just like, I see what it is. I understand it now. I don't need it anymore. Because again, it wasn't bringing me any sales to anything. There was no return on it. Just me sitting there clicking.
I think the same can be. It's funny. You're talking. I feel like we're talking. You're. What I'm picturing is not just people who are business people. I'm picturing the everyday consumer of social media that are fault. So you're talking about different platforms that you're using, and I'm thinking about people who are consuming social media and the different content they're consuming from people that really aren't giving them any return on the investment of the time that they're putting in. So in other words, if you're following accounts where they're hot chicks and they're just modeling bikinis after a while, it's cool for like 5 minutes. And after a while, like, guys, unfollow. The same thing, if you're following accounts that are just not feeding your soul, you feel like they're unhealthy for you for whatever reasons, unfollow it.
Yeah. I mean, I think everything nowadays feels like it's so permanent in people's eyes. Like they can't not just unfollow something. Like this guy's arguing with me on social media and I hate his comments. So block him, unfollow him. Why are you putting up with this? Like if you saw my block list, if you put some comment on my page and it's like derogatory or something, dude, I'm blocking you. Like, I don't care what your thought is. At some point, this is my space and I don't have to, it's not my space. You know what I mean?
I get it.
But, shout out to MySpace. Yeah. But I don't have to have it anymore. Even going back to MySpace, like the
rest in peace, Tom.
Right, and the evolution of having to just do more, and I find myself doom scrolling, all the time, and I'm just like, what am I doing right now? And some of the most successful people I know don't even use social media. I think you had posted something. It was like a little clip from your last interview, and the person on the
my friend Marcos, yeah,
and he was like, I don't have social media anymore.
Yeah, he was a doctor,
and I was like, what? That is the most amazing thing you hear, because it's like, how do you like? I meet people like that, and they're like, I don't do it anymore.
That's what he was telling me. He's like, I'm a unicorn, bro. I'm a unicorn out here, because he has zero social media presence, zero.
Which and it doesn't sound like his business is doing bad, right?
No.
So like for people that I know, I have a friend that I grew up with that she's a costume designer. She works on some of the most biggest projects I could tell you right now. I'm not going to say because she's working on something right now, but America's Next Top Model. She did the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion. She did like things like that. So like she's working. She has an amazing career, and she never
Hunger
posts.
Games by any chance?
No, but she was just working on. She just did Gabrielle Union just came out with a documentary about her going to Africa.
Oh wow!
And she produced that.
Oh, very cool.
And she's from Miami. Monique, shout out to Monique. But Monique, and I can say that now, I guess, because it's released already. That was on Hush before. But she never is on social media.
That's funny because Dwayne Wade's chef of 20 years was just sitting in that chair a few weeks ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Chef Richard Ingram.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he's with Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade all the time.
And he probably met my friend Monique. Yeah,
more than
she does amazing work. But when I interview her for my podcast, I had a podcast called Come art me, bro.
Oh, come at me.
Come art me, bro. It's like come at me, bro. But like I was like a play on the words. But I did an interview with her, and she would tell me these amazing things that she was doing. And one of her most prominent features that she has that clients love is the fact that she never posts anything, that she never wants to include that to the world, that they can sit with her and have an open conversation, do a bunch of cool things throughout the whole week. That they'll be on a boat somewhere and she'll never post anything. And I tell her, why aren't you posting these things? And she's like, why? Like, why do I have to tell people what I'm doing to feel like I'm doing something successful? And that blows my mind because she was a little older than I am. I'm 42 now. I think she was like 5 or 6 years older, and a whole different bracket of people that we started social media and we were like, what is this? And I could meet chicks and like I could be on this forever, right? And they were already in college doing work or doing something. She was in California doing, costume designing. Nothing about social media. Even to this day, I'll say, what are you working on? She's like, I can't tell you. And she won't even put it out. And so I know people that have such a successful, not social media stress life. And those people that have that, like that they can do that, oh my gosh, like that's such a release for them. Like, I wish I could just drop social media and not have to I have to post. I have to post things or else you go irrelevant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, No,
yeah. I think that I hear what you're saying 100%. And those people are unicorns. And my friend Marcos, one of the main reasons he didn't want to get on social media was because he was like, I was a douchebag and I was trying to get with a bunch of chicks at the same time, and I didn't need one knowing what the other was doing.
Right.
He's like, I didn't want to get posted or tagged on a photo, and then
which I totally I know how that goes. Yeah. A lot of people just don't want social media because it's like they don't want to be with a photo of taking that when they just want to enjoy themselves and like not have to be tagged and all that stuff, But that thought.
So I'm perfectly cool with the people who don't want to deal in this world, right? But people who do have a desire to become known, but then they're living in the shadows in the same time, or it's they have these different barriers that are preventing them from putting themselves out there because they're fearing judgment, criticism of others. They're judging themselves and comparing themselves to other people and the amount of success
that happens
that they
all
get.
the time now. I think that the comparison nowadays is almost like, I think maybe from the younger generation, I feel like, and I hate saying it like that, but I'm 42 years old, bro. Like the phases of like trends have gone by us in a way that like you already know that it's going to be different next week. Something's going to be different no matter what. The most consistent thing is inconsistent, right? Mm-hmm. So I am trying to keep up with all that and again run that hamster wheel, and we just can't kind of keep running Instagram for people. Not that I think that it's bad to be on social media or use it. I mean, if you can use social media in a great way to encourage people and do things in a way. I mean, I'll be honest. I post negative comments on people's stuff all the time. I just can't help it. As soon as I get up, I'm just like, this is stupid. This is not a hack. No life. What are you talking about?
You write that?
I can't not just like what are you even doing here? What's happening? Like I'll type stuff but I find myself doing that a lot. Like I'll do that, not negative comments, but like constantly just
like challenging somebody who puts something on.
And then it's like such a not like all the things that I try to put out there for social media, it tend to either come back to you in a positive way or come back to you and just don't do anything at all, and I think going forward, I've been trying to utilize things that don't do my business better, that I can cut off to then exploit the things that make me more money. And I say exploit in a way that like in a positive way, not like I'm not going to exploit myself,
of course.
But
you got an OnlyFans, Tony?
I did. No, I'm just kidding. It's canceled now.
It's canceled.
But
my wife took it down.
But for example, the podcast I was doing, I was enjoying myself. I would have meetings just like this with friends and artists, and I had great conversations. But at the end of the day, it wasn't bringing me any revenue. And unfortunately, I am an artist and I am somebody that can be creative, but I'm also a business person. Yeah. I also have a business that needs to make money. So at the end of the day, I have to really think of what can do less of that, spinning my wheels, and then try to figure out what's going to bring up my margins. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do I get more money? Not in a way that like, man, I just want to, you know, rip off people and things like that. But, you know, you put value into your brand. I remember when I started selling.
I think I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is more for me than it is for anything else. I mean, I've had really cool people come on here. I've learned a lot. Every conversation I sit down, this is like my own little university.
Yeah, you're getting free. I'm gonna back charge you for this free.
That's fine. You could try. You paid me. You gave me this awesome box of gifts, man. When you came here, and I got to show it before we get off.
You're good.
But yeah, this has been more for me than for anybody else. Mm-hmm. I have a ton of content that I'm just storing right now. I don't even know what I'm gonna do with it, Tony.
Yeah,
I have an idea of how to break up these conversations into a way that's more palatable versus the Joe Rogan 2-hour method, which I think is out. Like you have to have a tremendous platform with really prominent people to put out this in its entirety and expect for people to listen to it from beginning to end.
Right.
If it was Jamie Foxx in here, sure, people might, or if it was Donald Trump sitting there, people were going to listen. But just you and I, two kids from Hialeah,
it's
between
hard.
77th and 81st Street by La Viña Aragon.
Right.
It doesn't
shout out to La Viña.
Yeah, cash only. Cash only.
And if you're ever there, ask for El Hombre. That's the sandwich that I've made when I go there, bro. I go there and then I go to the owner. El Hombre, por favor. And they're like, oh. All right.
El Hombre?
Se llama El Hombre. And I made this. I used to go there so much that like I asked for a sandwich to be made all the time. And it was the croqueta preparada, sandwich with the little papitas that they put on top.
Uh-huh.
But then they put a chorizo, right? The little strips of chorizo, like they did, right? And then they put a fried egg on top, and then they press that like right. Oh, dude, it's amazing. And then every time I would do it, can you do this for me? And they were like, yeah, sure. So I don't go off on a tangent.
No, it's okay. They should call that el infarto.
That's something about a heart attack. This is a long time ago. If it was now that I've invented the name, it would probably be like that again.
Look, in the end, these mics right here, this is for me. Yes, I have content I'm storing. I kind of have an idea of how I could break it up. It's time consuming for me because I have to sit down and re-listen to episodes and break it up into chunks and then smaller reels from that, which is...
It's hard.
It's time consuming. People don't realize like the work that goes into it. And so I have that thought process, but right now it's on the back burner and I'm storing these conversations and I'm enjoying it. But it's a hobby that's not feeding my business right now, but it's okay. Feeding me.
Right. It's okay.
Feeding me.
And I think that's at the end of the day, that's what's most important. I think. I think even for the way that I approach social media, it's again like something that's helping me in a way to be more sane, right? So like,
I think that's I think you're hitting the nail on the head. That's the most important part. If it needs to be feeding, it needs to be feeding you.
Right.
The same way that your business and your profession feeds you. And I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking about something within you drives you to create, to produce. You have an idea. You want to see it brought into fruition. I think that's the same for everything.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that everything will follow beyond the business stuff. Obviously, the business stuff is a whole other beast in itself.
Yeah.
And just everything that comes along with that, just even legally, are so time consuming to make sure you're the right paperwork for your office, for the rent, for the all the things that are included with that, and then be creative, and then also be the hoped person that you have to be in front of everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Because your business, you can't be a negative Nancy, right? You can't be like, I want to help because I've been thinking about suicide, and you're just like, oh, bro, whatever, dude. Like, life is hard, dude.
Yeah, life is hard. Suck it up.
You can't do that, right? You have to have some type of, way of connecting with people, and I think that social media is a fantastic way to do it. Yeah. I mean, just sitting here, the conversation, whether or not it's going to be published, it's published in your head, right? Like you're going to be able to pull from that, whether or not people know that was a part of the conversation you had, to be able to complete a like right now you're bringing up things that, you brought up earlier about like the person you had on the show the other day about not having social media. I knew that because I watched the videos, right? So I knew to see what was going on. I want to know on a regular, even though I listen to the podcast and I watch it on YouTube because I like to visually like see it, that there's messages within everything that can help people out. I think like for me, for my business, the motivation went from, back when I started, it was more like, I want to be the best brand. I want to be on like, I want all these famous people to wear my clothes. And this Miami mentality of kind of like, we the best, like step on everybody else. And like, I don't care. And like, I would never like want to work with other people because they have another brand and I don't want to work with them because like, that's their shit. Like like that mentality of like doing it that way is very South Florida, because it's like very Miami Beachy. Like I'm gonna step on toes and get up the chain, but now I just want a successful business. I want to do what I like, but I realize that. So like this last year, we had some really great accomplishments for Devious Elements. We were on a major television show for. I got one of my artist brand T-shirts on. The show was called The Neighborhood. It's on CBS. It has Cedric the Entertainer.
Oh, dope.
Got one of my shirts on the show, nationally out there. I still get sales from people wanting to buy the same shirt that was on the show. That was amazing. That was a whole nother I worked with so many different people to try to get that, to make that happen in Los Angeles and getting it on CBS TV. That was something that I didn't even put on social media. Like it was an accomplishment that it's like wins that I have that I can't even really, they're like gloating to me. I don't know, like I'll put it out there to show people that, oh, look what we did. We got the shirt. I'll put some content, but then I have to move on to the next thing. Like it gets stale after a while. Like that accomplishment for other people just turns into just me reposting the same shit all the time. So what do I do next to be bigger, right? How do I get bigger? So I ended up working with some new clients this last year and really scoring thanks to another friend of mine, another artist friend. And I started working with a company that is very prominent in Wynwood, and I can't say the name because I don't want to give their anonymity out, but you would definitely know who the company, unless you're going to believe it and I could say it.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Well, there's Wynwood in the name of like their business name, right? Okay. And they're probably one of the biggest people in that area. So I started producing clothing for them. I started working with them. Excuse me. That I produce their products. Like I'm actually working with big companies to like on the background things that I can't even post on social media. Like there's an artist on your wall right now that I just produced one of his bags and he doesn't even know that I produced it for them.
Mojo?
I can't say it.
Well, I'm just guessing. That's
I don't know.
It might be.
I don't know.
All right.
It might be somebody else, but there is definitely a anonymity of like a white label feeling from me. Like I don't need the credit to feel better about my business. I just need the money, right? Like pay me the money at how much I'm worth, and I'll produce things for people. Things like that have been happening this last year. That I was on Deco Drive. Deco Drive did a whole spot. Shout out to Deco Drive. It did amazing. I still, again, get sales from Deco Drive. I couldn't have asked for a better interview. They reached out to me about bucket hats and did this whole bucket hat thing on me. You can check it out on their website still. Amazing. Things that I did that had nothing to do with social media, because none of these things came to me from social media. They came to me from reaching out to people. They came to me from meeting people in person, actually doing FaceTime and like getting out there and doing shit, right? So when a lot of people in South Florida and the positions I'm in for clothing would be like boasting about it, putting it as if it's like some R. Kelly video in the club or something, like, look at what we doing, faking it till they make it. I don't want to do any of that shit. I don't want to fake it till I make it.
But I don't think I don't think you're faking it till you make it. So there was a girl on here before named Marley Q. I don't know if you know Marley.
Yeah, Marley, yeah.
So she has all these acronyms that she throws out. Yeah. And one of them is brag, right? She's like, you guys think brag is a negative thing, but let me tell you what brag stands for. It's being real and grateful. So in a way, what she was describing to me was the fact that, let's say I had that deal and I'm on Deco Drive and I come on Instagram to talk about it. It's more like, hey, this is what's going on in my life and I'm grateful for what's going on. No matter what, Tony, some people are going to find negativity in your success.
Right.
No matter what. No matter what. Oh, look at Tony. He thinks he's a shit. Oh, look at Adrian. He has a podcast. Nobody's listening to that shit. He thinks he's special. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day.
Somebody's always pissed.
But there's somebody who you're inspiring, and there's somebody who you're planting, again, that seed that's like, damn, Tony's doing it.
Yeah. I
wonder what I could do. How can I get my business on Deco Drive? Or, damn, I know somebody. I have a contact, and I might be able to do X, Y, and Z. And to me, those are things that are inspirational. When I see, again, I'm just Nadal Mod, when he was killing it with Pincho Factory, and winning these burger competitions and everything. I was like, damn, look at this dude. That's fucking awesome.
It could have been on social media going, look at me, look at this, look at what I'm doing.
No,
like he could have been like that, but he wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was super grateful about it and just like proud, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's inspirational. It's definitely it's not of what you say, it's how you say it, obviously. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you're in there, I'm the fucking king of fashion. Fuck all you guys. Yeah, right. It's different.
I feel like it can all be taken away from me in a second. Mm-hmm. Like, as much work as I put into all this stuff, it all could be gone, right? And that thought to me is crazy. Mm-hmm. Like, I at one point, I was going through some times that I was just like, quitting to do what you're doing and trying to be a successful person in what you're doing. They say it's like someone trying to quit cigarettes. Like, it's easy to quit all the time, but it's harder to not start up, right? So like, I quit all the time cigarettes to just have that stick to it, that consistency. It's very hard. So, with a lot of times that I had during probably in the before the pandemic, I think there were times that I was going to give up Devious Elements as a business, and I thought, do I need to do this anymore? I told my wife, I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel like that street grinder guy that goes to Art Basel all week and chats it up with everybody to make connections. And a lot of work went into doing just connecting with people and doing things like that. And at some point I felt like I wasn't getting back as much as I should. And I felt like I was doing so much and I wasn't getting fulfilled by the stuff. I wasn't getting back, whether it was financial or just feeling good about creating new products. Once it becomes a job, it's like, what am I doing anymore? And I think that the pandemic started and everybody was forced to be home. That was me. I did that anyways. I stay home constantly. I work from home. I stay up till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning every night working on my stuff. That was a normal thing for me to be, on a web call. People were in a whole different world. While people were trying to innovate and figure out new things, I was just trying to get better at what I was doing. And without this huge change of my business and new pivoting and I didn't need to. I was thriving during the pandemic. People were buying more stuff online than they ever did. I had no complaints for that. But I think it turned into, I found another motivation. I think that when I had the thought of being the best Miami and I want to be up top and I want to be the best brand, have all these people wearing my clothes, which famous people wear my clothes. I can tell you 10 people, 20 people right now that are on TV right now that normally wear my clothes, but I don't normally have to put it out there because I don't care. I want it to really matter.
I'm curious. I want to know who.
Well, name me some. For example, Lauren and Alexei Brevarnik from 98 Fiancé.
Okay, I don't know any of these people you see.
Right. Well, we'll say Melissa Carcache.
I don't watch.
She was from the Hialeah series.
Oh, I have. But the funny part is, I don't watch. I don't know any actors or actresses, so it's funny.
Justin Sutherland. He's a professional chef. He's always on Guy Fieri's show. He wears my stuff.
I think I've seen. Oh, that's cool though.
The band Head PE. You ever heard of the band Head PE? Mm-hmm. They used to tour with Limp Bizkit and Tool and all these bands. My favorite band in the world. They wear my clothes.
Who's your main demographic for your clothing?
I'm between 13-year-old to almost to 47 years old.
So it's
and it's probably split down the middle between men and women. So I try to do more things that promote on both sides, and appeal to both ways. But I think that again, people from the Midwest will find my clothing just by Google searching, right? No, they don't even follow me on social media. Most of my customers come first time visit. First time clicking on my website and then buying something. In the same interaction.
Tony, talk to me real quick about how did you get into the fashion industry, and what is this business like? Because I'm in the mental health field. My job is to let patients know that I exist, that I treat depression, anxiety, mood disorders, that I help with trauma, PTSD, letting them know the health consequences of mental health issues and how physical health and mental health go hand in hand. So for me, it's kind of straightforward. I offer a service, and if you're in need of that service, I will be more than happy. Right. Yeah, I'm here to offer a high quality service from skilled professionals.
within the same business license with the photography stuff, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
But you never know what it is until it turns into something.
Exactly.
Right? So I started. I used to pump concrete for a living, right? But before all the photography, because I'm a seasoned photographer, I've been published internationally through books, through magazines. There's a whole other conversation. I was very successful at that. How it started was I used to pump concrete for a living, and I had a lot of odd jobs before that. I did like a lot of phone sales, and I did a lot of just mall jobs. I was a mall rat at some point. Worked at Dillard's and all these other stupid places. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I always thought I'd be in sales somehow, and I always had to get the gift of the gab. I could talk to people, and I can have that conversation. I pumped concrete for about 5 years, and I mean hard work. Like I ran my own pump. I had a concrete pump on my truck, trailered all the time that I drove a pickup. I did work from Fort Lauderdale to Hialeah, and I have an assistant with me. Shout out to Lester from Hialeah. And I drive the truck from Fort Lauderdale back and forth, and we pump jobs from tall building, rake beams they call them, and you have to go up on this tall building and pump concrete at this height with no guardrails or nothing like that. And I ended up learning so much from that job. That job, even just speaking up, like when you're on a job site and you have to go, hey, and scream and have the whole job shut down because of the concrete, you better know how to like yell it, right? And that job had taught me so much about just having I'm going to say what I say, and I feel this way, so I'm going to do this. I really learned a lot from that. It beat me up so much that there was, on a regular basis, my hands had concrete still on them. I had chalky skin from the concrete. Concrete eats up your hands after some point because of the lye that's in it, and it'll chemically burn you. That was a normal thing for me. So I ended up, this is the initiation of the superhero story. One day it was raining in Fort Lauderdale. I was closing up the breech of the pump that's in the back of the truck. There's like a cone that sticks out that goes to the hose that pumps the concrete. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to close the breech and put a metal pin in it and put a hammer and hit it real good, and it'll hold that breech closed. So normal thing that I did hundreds of times. I put the pin, bink, and when I did that, I clipped my finger inside the breech of the cone. My finger jammed, and when that breech hit, my finger looked like hamburger, bro. It's this finger here. You could even see that it's like kind of
more flat. Yeah,
so this finger totally just smashed, right? First thing I did was, and I don't even, my brain didn't even feel it yet. I was getting paid under the table. I had no insurance. I was getting paid great money. I mean, every week I'd make like $1,000 a week pumping concrete. Like I was making great money with no longevity in sight, right? My boss didn't want to pay for my medical bills. And he basically like ghosted me. He had, even my friend that I worked with as a assistant that I brought onto the job, he was working with the boss every day, and I had Lester calling me, bro, what job you on? Where you at? I need to get my paycheck. And so I would have to literally hunt down my old boss to get my paycheck every month. Some of my friends, they'd have to drive me because my car was wrecked. That was at some point that I didn't have a car. I had a brace on my finger that was like this all time, and I still don't even write with this finger. Like it still affects me from back then. It ended up, I was at home a lot. I had to do a lot of sitting to myself. There was no, money coming in. The money that I did get, it was because literally I had to go to my boss's house and threaten him with calling the cops to like give me my paycheck. And that didn't fly very long. I was home for months with a broken finger that didn't even have a real cast on it. My friend ended up giving me a camera, and he was like, I had a buddy that he used to do a lot of bad stuff. I had a lot of shady friends. He used to do a lot of stuff. I had one of those buddies that like back in the day.
I had a couple of friends like that. It's okay. They would always give me a bargain though.
Yeah.
I never complain. You don't complain about them when they're offering you a $1,000 camera for $100. You're like, hey,
all silver, no gold.
He's a good friend.
Right. So he was one of these guys that like would confide in me, like very like do a lot of bad stuff. Like I have whole stories that people would not even believe some of the things I grew up with. And so he would come over my house and confide in me, and he didn't have anybody else that he can actually sit and talk to. He did a whole bunch of hood stuff, bro. Like, and he did not, and that's where I came from. Like, I know how it is. And he would come over my house and hang out. We'd have engaging conversation, and I would encourage him to like do better things. So he would always want to bring me things that I would have use for, which was a kind of a real weird paradox because, at the time is like your friend comes over, they bring you stuff, you try to make some extra money. And I'm telling you a lot because I have this is a long time ago. And like, you know what I mean? I don't have that like thought that I have this like karma coming, but like, I don't have this feeling at all. I've already paid all my, this is just me being able to tell a story. And at some point he brought me a Nikon D50, and it was the case brand new. And he was like, dude, I got this for you. I know you helped me out a lot. And he's like, I wanted you to have this.
Oof. That's full frame?
Full frame.
Oof.
That's the same camera right here. I put that camera right on my arm, bro.
Man, look at that.
The Nikon D50. That camera was the first professional camera, detachable lens.
How do you pick? I'm sorry, this is a complete. How do you pick a tattoo artist?
Oh, my cousin Ivanka.
Where's she at?
Oh, dude, I gotta. She did.
I'm ready to get sleeved up, Tony. That's why.
She just did the beach. She's a black and white artist.
Yeah, I want black and white. I just want to. I want to get sleeved up.
I got you. My cousin Ivanka is like the best.
Ivanka, what? Now you got to use social media. Give her a shot.
Ivanka Collado. She's amazing on. She's an amazing tattoo artist. She does black and white type work or black work.
Okay.
And one of the best in South Florida, and probably one of the best in the world. I'll shoot you her.
A question: how active is she on social media?
She's not very active.
She's not.
No.
Damn.
No. She really does not. Really, she doesn't like to post. She doesn't like have. She doesn't really, and I would consider her probably a very successful artist.
That's cool.
What was I saying?
Sorry, I was talking about your story. You were talking about chasing around your boss. You were talking about your friend that was selling you. Your friend that gave you the D50.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So that camera ended up being the real first professional camera I ever got, and I used that camera to death. Like, dude, I which is funny because I ended up getting stolen. I think, full circle, which is, hey, let somebody else.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. So it turned into me learning the camera and taking like figuring it out myself to, like just to learn. And then I started figuring out how to use my camera in manual. One of my first jobs as a photographer was for Bob Knight, the graduation company.
Oh, okay.
So I was doing with 44 millimeter cameras, not even digital. I was having to change film out. And to do yearbook pictures in high schools. Terrible job. Terrible job. You know what it is to get kids to smile on hundreds of kids coming and going. And you just have to like, look at that. And they go, snap.
Done.
You have to like figure out ways. That job was the worst. But I learned how to use the camera in a very professional way, work with the equipment. And I even learned how to change out film, which at the time was, I didn't really need to know that, but it really helped me to learn. After that, I went to graduation pictures, taking pictures when you're on the stage, doing the shake of the hand and all that stuff.
God.
Step and repeat, they call it.
Yeah.
I would do that, and I was getting good. So they were putting me like on the candid photos. I get to walk around and just take candids of people and not, be in front of everybody. I got used to being in situations that I had a lot of pressure, like being in front of a auditorium in, FIU, and a whole graduating class behind you and being the guy that's taking the photo in front of the stage while the teacher is holding hands waiting for you to take a picture.
Like the dean and the student as
there's a billion people behind you like waiting, and there's literally a line of people waiting to go up.
Yeah.
Without knowing, with your flash battery dying, and you need to know how to take a good picture in the moment. That really, really helped me to like figure it out, And from then I stopped working with that type of stuff. I ended up moving to Tampa. I didn't know editing programs. I didn't know Photoshop. I had a friend, Alex Herrera. I didn't have a friend. He's one of my best friends. He used to do all my Photoshop work. I sent it to him, and he would just twist it. Right? He would just do some crazy things with it from my basic photos that I would take. At some point, I wanted to learn how to do that myself. I'm like, well, I want to learn how to do Photoshop too. So I sat there when my finger was still broken, learning how to do Photoshop. And I sat there like
Wait, did Alex helped you? Or how did
Alex helped me. He would show me what better camera to use. He was using like a Casio point and shoot at one point. He was really guiding me to he knew more photography than I did at the point. And he was really going, dude, I know what you can use here, use this. And this is before I even knew that you did photography too. Because this is like before I moved to Tampa, which I was like 24, right? And it's such a long time ago. I'm 42 now. And he was showing me how to use the camera, do editing. Excuse me.
That's okay.
And he was at some point I was like, dude, I want to learn how to use Photoshop. I learned how to use Photoshop, did the basics. I started doing all these little webinar classes.
No, the reason I asked you about Alex is because he's the one who taught me how to use off-camera flash. Like I called him one day just random and I was like, hey, I really want to know how to do this. And then he's like, come to my house.
Right. He knew. He would be very involved with the equipment. I learned so much from Alex Herrera.
Really cool guy, man.
And at some point I started learning how to do the graduation photos. Like I said, I ended up moving to Tampa, and I didn't have a job. I had like a sales job, and I was working at Auto Trader magazines. They were doing the car magazines that they sold from the Trader magazine.
I used to love those things.
It was based in St. Pete, and so I was working in that office. That was right before the Auto Trader magazines went to change their name to Auto Trader Classics, and then rebranded, and then had a whole editorial section on their magazines, and they had like car photo shoots, and they had all that stuff. That happened when I was working at Auto Trader as a salesperson, and they knew that I was a photographer because I would send all my coworkers, like I had like a Friday fashion photo, and I would copy all my people that I work with, and it would just be a new fashion picture that I took, throughout the month or whatever, and it wasn't like it was just fashionably, and it wasn't like anything crazy. And my boss, he's like, hey man, like I know you do photos. Would you ever be interested in doing photos of cars? And I'm like, yeah, like I don't want to do these sales stuff anymore. I get to travel and go to all these car shows and take pictures of cars. And he's like, yeah. So I became the head photographer, in-house photographer of Auto Trader. And I learned how to use an editing. I use InDesign to learn how to edit, to do layouts. I learned on the job how to use it. For my first test, they asked me if I knew how to use InDesign. I did not know how to use InDesign. That night, I did like all these tutorials and I figured it out. And I learned. They didn't know. I don't even think till right now.
But when they asked you, do you know how to use InDesign? You were like, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Fuck, right there, yes.
That's some shit my sister would do. She would tell me in a job interview, they asked me, do you know how to use Excel?
Absolutely.
I'm an expert at Excel.
And then go home and go, what is Excel, right? And then, but that would work, you know. And I was doing so many different terrible things as a designer, right? I could tell you all the things that I could not fix on the design because I was just flattening things and a whole bunch of, jargon that like editors talk about. But I learned, and I also became a designer to lay out magazines. So I was doing all the editorial magazine layouts. I would take the photos and go travel, and I'd come back and I would lead the team to edit. I do editorial layouts, and they'd have a whole bunch of things for car parts, and like you got really creative to like do typography for every single layout. You needed a new headline that looked interesting, and you had to clip out all these cars. And I would be encouraged to go to these shows to take pictures of cars, and it was such fun. Like there weren't models. Models complained about legs and hair, and no offense to models, but it was harder to shoot models. Cars, you park the car, set up your two lights.
It is what it is. That's it.
Beautiful, dude. I could do that all day long. Detail shots, I'd be there all day. Mm-hmm. I get paid, and then I would get to take the cars home. I remember one time Roush Mustangs.
Okay.
They just came out, and they would give us a brand new car to Auto Trader for us to photograph for their editorial. I would take it home with me. I'd go home and I'd take them. It was the most nerve-wracking thing in the world because I wouldn't want anybody to touch it. But I would have this like 600 horsepower car that I'm driving that I can screech the tires like on the bridge while I'm driving home as I'm driving.
That's crazy.
And they're just like, take this home and just be careful. I'm like, sure. That was an amazing job that I loved. That really showed me how to hone into my editorial photos, just stationary things that I can learn how to use lights better. I used to use a just simple 1-2 light setup too. And Can I tell you a story with Alex Herrera? This is a story we'll never forget. That we were in Tampa. He came down to visit, and I found this really cool location to go shoot these cars. It was like very industrial. It was like by the port, and it was like
with the backdrop of Miami.
No, this is Tampa.
Oh,
So
okay.
Tampa had like this real cool industrial watering processing plant, right? And it just looked like this super cool like industrial big monolith of a thing. And we pull, it was a brand new Charger that just came out. Nobody had even seen it. Came out and it was silver. I got to drive that home, and we took it to this like place real concealed down the back of the street thing. And Alex at the time had this big beard. I think he has a beard now.
Yeah.
But he had a really big beard, and it wasn't gray. I mean, we looked like we weren't doing something cool. And it was around the time of like a lot of shady stuff happening with like terrorists and stuff.
And Alex looks like
Alex,
we'll put it out there. Alex, you look like a terrorist,
right.
bro. I don't know if you're listening to this, you do. You have the terrorist vibes. If I was on a plane next to you, I'm definitely stereotyping you, and I'm asking them to search your suitcase, Alex. But go ahead.
So I'm taking the pictures. I parked the car at an angle by this fence, right? And I'm taking pictures of the car. We're like in the moment. Now, all of a sudden, 2 military guys with M16s pointed at us come out from the back of the fence and tell us, put our hands up, and we can't be here because you're taking pictures to a private area and that you shouldn't be. Like, it's like, dude, I was like in front of the White House taking pictures of like trying to, like that thought of like, you can't be here taking photos.
Yeah.
M16 sticking at us. We're both just like, oh, bro, like
I'm good.
I work for Auto Trader. Like these are like, we're not doing anything shady out here. Right. And that used to be my excuse all the time. Because I used to find these cool locations to shoot cars. And because you had to find cool looking spots, right? And so I was always on the look. Whenever I get in contact with like a cop or something that will always see me, oh, I work for Auto Trader. I'm the photographer. Oh, they would melt. Can I be in your photos? Oh, you do Auto Trader cars? Oh, yeah. And after it's funny because the guy with the M16s, right? They had to take our picture to like document us, right? To be like, can you mind if we take your picture? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, sure. So the officer was taking pictures in the sun, right? The sun was direct, like right at him. He could not get me in the photo. And I go,
turn us around.
I swear to you, I go, officer, I swear I'm a photographer. Can I turn around so the sun can hit me? He goes, okay. And I had my picture in the car magazine. Like, you could see my, like, we're not terrorists. And we left. And I swear to you, we were like, wow, yeah, dude, we got to like we have to make sure we're like pulling cars up in places that like, we're not going to get shot.
Yeah, for real.
Because people were real cool after the fact. But, like the story like that, going back to like learning and just figuring it out, going out there, that career turned into, what did I do after that? I ended up moving back to Miami. No, I moved to Atlanta after that. I stopped working for Auto Trader, and I got a job as I worked for a company called One Create. And now they're called KSC Create. And I was doing layouts for Walmart magazines.
Dude, so you've been all over the place, but at what point did fashion come in?
Fashion was always in the background. That I always had that. So I was always wanting to take
but was it
portraits.
Was it a side hobby?
It was always a side hobby. And then
so you were creating clothes in the background.
Well,
through all of this.
So going forward with me starting to take like more inspiring editorial fashion photos. At one point when I was living in Atlanta, I was working a full-time job. I was very busy, and I thought, man, I need some outlet. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was always buying from a website called Jack Threads. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I've heard of Jack Threads, yeah.
They used to sell cool hats and sneakers and just different random things. Pretty much like what I do now, which is interesting. And I would always buy cool t-shirts. It'd be like t-shirts with like a model on it or something and like cool position. And I thought, man, like, how come I don't just put model stuff on t-shirts? I have a whole collection of just cool photography. I used to be very interested in photography. And I talked to all the model friends they were all friends of mine. They were like, sure, yeah, you could use our pictures. And I started doing that, and I started doing with the screen printing company first to do a little batch. And I did the first screen print. I think I did like 200 shirts or something like that, different sizes. And it was just one of my pictures of this girl hitting a windshield out in a junkyard. She was just enjoying it and it's just smashing into the glass. Did it in one shot. Awesome shot. And I turned that into clothing first, and I thought, man, this would be interesting. I started literally going with clothes in my car, and I would go to my job and be like, yo, you guys, I got some new clothes. They would already know that I did photography, and so I would show them new clothes. I put things online and kind of started working my way into my clothing being a photography business, or my photography being a clothing business. Right.
How did you know what shirts to, like, this is where I'm at, right? So I made merch here for AMP, but I would love to get some of my, exactly what you're talking about. Again, you're inspiring me again. Thank you very much. Okay. So I'm wondering, like, how do I go about choosing what shirt? Like, forget the picture I'm going to put on the shirt, but I guess the manufacturer of this
feels
shirt.
Better.
Of course.
It's literally just from experience. Just buying the shirt, feeling it, seeing how it prints, and constantly seeing what that is for, what the new shirts are, the cheaper shirts versus the more economic, the more expensive shirts. I found a healthy
medium.
Yeah, to be able to figure out what I didn't like and what I did like and how I wanted my brand to be represented. And the Gildan harder shirts, they were just too heavy for me. I went to more of a cotton blend of kind of a mix, tri-blend, to kind of even more softer. I didn't like the whole heavy feeling when you wear a shirt and it just chokes you.
Yeah.
And that from screen printing, I didn't like. Plus screen printing, you had to have all this overhead of product that you never would sell. I had 102 smalls and 50 mediums left in my house, and I had to somehow get rid of 50 mediums, and I had all this product sitting in my house. So I would figure out a way to, what's the best shirt to use, and then how do I not have all this crap sitting in my house? And I thought, I want to utilize drop shipping and printing on demand. At the time wasn't very big. Mm-hmm. And I jumped into it. I saw a lot of resources, not just from some companies that were in the US, but companies in China and other places that I can reach out to manufacturers to try to figure out what works the best for me. And then kind of go down that. So once I learned that, all right, this shirt came from this company, then how do I reverse do this? Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to call the company that they used and then work directly with that company. And then now I find myself working directly with manufacturers, having my own personal reps that they give me assigned. I know what to ask for now. I know how to approach new companies. And I'm constantly speaking with people from China and different countries all the time, having to, I told you when I first came in that I went to bed like at 5:30 in the morning last night because literally have to wait till I speak to some of my reps in China, and it's the opposite time of day over there. It's 5 o'clock p.m. here, it's 5 a.m. over there. So I have to constantly be talking with them. And like right now I'm working with a company that I do wholesale for a lot of different companies, like I said earlier. And that portion of my business is doing really well. So I need to figure out how to scale that in a way that I can do that as much as I'm doing the sales for my website. So I've really dove into how to really make clothing, not just from your print on demand, printful type company, but going directly to a company that does this directly from the source. And instead of me going to China to do like you see on TV all the time, oh, we went to China, we're going to make it there. No, I could do that right from here. There's Translate. There's ways to communicate with people that don't speak my language that people normally don't do because they just don't understand. They don't want to get into that, right? It's too confusing to speak to people from other countries, so they don't go and actually do it. And so I think one of the things that I learned is really just doing things and seeing how they work. The same thing with products that I buy. Let's say if I'm working on some new sneakers, I'll order that same sneaker in multiple different prints because I want to see what the print looks like in multiple ways, whether it be like a solid print, black and white, or a very complex, gradient type print with real life looking parts to it. I have to be able to know what my customer is going to get first and know it for me as a consumer myself to be able to kind of direct that to what I think people will then appreciate, because it kills me when I see these companies that they're like, oh, we're going to use heat press. Make all these shirts and do all these hacks. Look how quick it is to make a shirt and heat press. And how many people came to me about heat press? I don't use heat press because it doesn't last that long. Heat press is great for when you put it right down and it looks great. But a vinyl thing on your shirt that's going to eventually get shriveled from the heat or crack, It doesn't have longevity. I wanted shirts that you could wear years from now, right? And it didn't look any different. That came from direct printing and having that type of style of printing.
So right now, if I order a shirt from Devious Elements Apparel, it's not something you have in stock. It's almost like drop shipping where it gets 100%, manufactured.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
so you're and I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
your main concern is to create the demand for whatever merchandise that you're putting out online. You create the demand, and so it's produced afterwards. So there's no waste.
Right. And so whatever I'm actually buying for myself would be a sample. And so I don't do that for everything, because once I know what a product does and how it lays and how it is, I don't have to worry about the print. So that's how you kind of stick to something and learn how that worked, and then use that and move on from it. Using sneakers, for example, it's so intimidating for people to work with sneakers because how do you even start? Who do you even approach? But if you know the right context with the manufacturer that do this, they do this every day, right? They can help you with certain things that they can walk you through with. How many times my Chinese manufacturers help me along with, don't do it like that, we could do it like this better. And I'm like, oh, great. And I know this for the next time, right? I don't have to keep making mistakes and wasting time for clothing that I know first is not going to last, and it's not going to have the impact. Like, I want somebody to put on something like I do and want to wear it and love what they're wearing, not just like put it on for a couple of times. All of a sudden the shirt broke on you. I'm not going to want to buy it from you again, So there's things like that I my standards have been really high for what I do. But I think that some things in clothing brands that have drop shipping don't have a need for. Like, I don't need to do custom labels on my shirts because I don't care about the label on my shirt. Like, I don't do certain things that a lot of brands want to really make into these hyper branded things, which look better for purchasing and for when you're marketing. But if I could do that same thing with the same product and not have to spend the extra money on these extra little things, like when you get my product, it comes in a bag, comes in a sealed thing. You
know what you're buying. You know who you're buying it from. You went to the website, like the label.
What you saw is probably a picture I took of the product myself. So you see detailed pictures going back to when I did pictures for the cars, detailed photos. Everything on my website has a detailed look to, so when somebody gets it, they're like, this is exactly what I saw.
So Ed, do you feel that everything that you've learned in the industry itself has been trial and error?
Full on. Because even from, I'll give an example, I had a problem with some of the tote bags that I had printed for one of the wholesalers I work with. We had to kind of go through different versions because some of the prints weren't coming out as bright, or as like the pinks were coming out neon, and they shouldn't come out neon, right? The artists want to try to get things in a way that the people I'm working with, they stick to what the original art looks like, and so it's not skewed so much. So I try to work with my printer to get things almost exactly what the client needs. Sometimes it takes some reprints. So knowing the steps to be able to figure that out, being the problem solver, I consider artists problem solving people, right? You're a problem solver. You got to figure it out and make it happen and work with it. Whether you got to cut it, stick it, I don't know, whatever it is. So if you can, figure out what works best for you and kind of go with that and know what it is to kind of like fixing the prints that I had to know, all right, go into that design and take out some of the reds in the print. I know this from working production in the magazines. Like, looking at the print, how it came out in the magazines on some dot gain on newspaper print, you always had to do things in a way that you knew that it didn't transfer correctly onto a gradient that was going to go onto paper. It wasn't going to look the same. So you kind of had to figure out ways and tricks to make things look the way they need to look. And I've totally brought that down from all the jobs I've had to be able to figure out what's going to look best. Even photographing the product, when you photograph a product, you want it to look exactly like it is. Even the colors, if it's a neon blue shirt, how am I going to make that neon blue shirt look real neon blue in the photos?
Of course.
And the technique, just the way I take my photos, it's all really congregated into like this like full story. I told my wife, like, I can't believe like everything I've dealt with has really been for this, right? And figuring out the ways that I can make the business better and where I've ended up now. Even being a phone sales person, I get onto a call with clients. I know how to exactly be on a conference call. I can lead a call if I need to. I know how to put things. all the things that I do for my business, even going down to
what kind of school did you go to for all of this?
the streets.
No, that's exactly yeah.
I dropped out of high school.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's young, who's hungry, who has a passion for design, fashion, they want to create their own clothing? Like, what do you say to that person who they're like, oh, I want to go to the Miami Institute of Technology and
do it. I mean, if you have the opportunity and you could be a classically trained, anybody in anything, go do it. Do I think that because I used to sell programs to schools like that, I used to be an admissions advisor for Kaplan University and the Art Institute. I was there for a while. I used to bring people in these programs and tell them that your $80,000 of payment is going to benefit you at the end. Some of it did and some of it didn't. Some people can't find a job just like anybody else. It's just what the resources you have to get those positions.
But how do you do it, I guess, as an entrepreneur, right? Because you've learned all these things through trial and error. And there's people who want to dive into this field and they don't. Well, I guess part of the reason that you've been successful is in the beginning it was a kind of it was a side hobby.
I learned, and I got into it that way. I think that if I have any advice for people that are getting to that want to do this as a career is you have to, like, I bleed this shit, bro. Like, I don't just get up and just like do my job. No, dude, I get up and we're watching a movie and I was reading dinner and I'm up steaming shirts and steaming hats for the photos I'm doing the next day. Like, I'm thinking about places to shoot. I have a new product I'm coming out right now that it's not even the same subject, but I've been working on that for the last couple months, developing that product to get it to market. And you have to really just love this. Like, if you're just doing this to get the internet cloud or whatever have a brand, that's not gonna last very long. You could do that, you can have a following, great. If you're not gonna live what you're doing and try to do what you do every day as if, like I said, as if this could be taken away from me at any point, I deserve this, I worked my ass off for this. So put in the time, put in the effort, know that it's gonna be very, very hard. You're going to wanna quit. It's easy to quit. You're going to want it. Everybody that does this has that time. But if you keep doing what you're doing and you keep pushing to do what you're doing, the things that you love, things will fall into place without you having to push it so much. If you're concentrating less on trying to be the it person and just do your it, then people will notice those things. You don't have to force to try to be ahead of something. I think that's a lot of things now is like that. Like, everything is a life hack. And like, you have 14-year-olds telling you now how to like wash your dishes correctly, and everybody's an expert. So if everybody's an expert, who you're listening to and who you're trying to get inspiration from, either you could just do it and learn it, get it and figure it out yourself, which is, I'm a huge person for that. I'd rather just dive into it and do it. And then if I can't understand it, then I learned. I've figured it out through the process, and I almost want to fail a little bit.
I was about to say you have to fail.
Yeah,
I was going to ask you a second ago, like, how many times have you quote unquote failed as you've gone through this process?
I'm failing this week sometimes. I mean, things are always rosy on like social media, but like, and not to say for me, but I mean, I have losses all the time when I work into certain things, and they just don't pay off. And I think, well, that didn't work. Before I would have been like, oh, this sucks and I don't want to do this anymore. Now I'm like, all right, how do I take that thing and see what worked best for that? And then again, exploit that and figure out how I can then use the better side of the things that I need from that. So if I'm selling a product and I notice that, for example, I had videos on my collection pages from like my hats. You go into my hat page, there'd be a video of a cool video that I shot up to the banner. I noticed that through my programs that I use to watch my heat maps and all that stuff, that people were just bypassing that. So I took it out. Things like that I figure out that you can see that don't work and work as simply as just cutting it out, moving on to the next step and seeing if something else works. If you don't do that, then you're just assuming that you can or not without actually knowing if you can. And I think it's such a hard thing to kind of keep up with, especially when you see so many wins of people around you. And it looks like people are winning. I tell you artists right now that have 100,000 followers or more that are dying to make sales. And I'm not saying for me, they're just as hard as the person that has 100 followers. You have Obey up on the wall.
Yeah.
Right. That dude, I'm sure he's still grinding it hard just to get those extra walls, get that work. Like everybody's out there grinding. You got to grind. And I don't think you should kill yourself doing this.
But you got to realize that there's work to be done no matter what. And as much as you think that somebody has succeeded, they're still busting their ass to continue to feed that success. What is success to you? Because I know earlier you said that, you wanted to be successful. You want your brand to be successful. What is success to you?
Success for me now is, I think, I had been thinking about that the other day, and I first failure on the opposite side of that for me is a failing business. Everything I put in would just somehow go to shit, and I somehow have to admit that Devious Elements was a failure. That's the worst thing. The success to me is knowing that I could pay my bills, knowing that I can be happy without feeling like I'm not getting anywhere. Seeing money come in is great. Working with new clients is awesome. Success to me is being happy with my wife, being able to do things that like I can do. I go to the beach 2 or 3 times a week. I couldn't do that before. I work from home. I anything that I want, I buy it. Like I'm not in any kind of, and I didn't grow up that way. I was poor growing up. So like success to me is, I guess, doing better than my mom and dad did, which my dad passed away from an overdose, Oxycontin at one point from addiction. My mom,
sorry to hear that.
Thanks. My mom and my dad was a hardworking. He never had he moved to New York when he was 15 from Puerto Rico, and busted his ass just doing hard work job, pressure cleaning, painting, do all the stuff that people do when they don't have any other, resources for education.
Yeah, just labor.
My dad barely knew how to, he couldn't even tell you how to, anything smart for them. He was very simple-minded like the old school dudes were. Thick, accent. He had to paint. I remember at one point he was painting roofs and he fell off the roof. He fell onto a sprinkler head, like right on his back. So at one point he couldn't go up on the roofs anymore. I used to go with my dad to paint roofs and do pressure cleaning. At some point I was doing a lot of stuff for him. And I just, by the end of his life, he was just a worn out dude. He worked his fingers to the bone. And I just told myself that I'm going to do better than my dad did, And even when he passed away, I said that, I got up and I was like, my dad didn't really have much, he wasn't a successful guy. And I really just want to do better than he did. Just, if he looks down and says he did it, and he was already proud of me by doing the basic stuff that I used to do, the magazine stuff. And he used to be so proud of that. He hadn't been around for like a couple of years, and even the successes I've had on television doing different things, the interview Deco Drive, would have loved my dad to see that. Yeah. So I just want
it would have been mi hijo está en el canal 7.
Would have been like, like one of the channels that he actually had.
Yeah.
Right? He would have been able to watch it. So like that type of thing. My dad would always say, "Oh, you're a professional." He goes, "Oh, what do you do?" He tell like people you meet, "Oh, you a professional like my son is?" Like he wouldn't like know. Very basic, like he wouldn't know what I work on social media and that I'd have to be like on a computer and I have to type things to people. Like he would not really know. So I think that success.
My dad still has a flip phone, so I understand exactly what you're saying.
No,
and good luck if the volume is up. He doesn't know how to put the volume up. So I have to drive to the tire shop, Tony, and be like, "Dad, this is why your phone's not working."
Because it's like he can't do like the thing. Yeah, no, my mom grew up from New York, Puerto Rican too, and she went to school. She became a teacher. She was in North Twin Lakes. She was the school that we both went to. She was a pre-K teacher.
Shout out to the Eagles.
Yeah, Eagles.
I still remember the song. Is that crazy?
No, dude, I don't remember any of that stuff.
Oh, North Twin Lakes, we love you.
Oh my gosh, it's like coming back already.
You see?
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's like a thought I haven't had in forever.
That's crazy.
So my mom worked in schools. Whenever I had, dude, in school I was, they call me C2C, right? because I had the C and the 2, you know, for and so they used to like pick on me in the classes, like the teachers, because they knew my mom like worked at the school.
And
so
they'll be like, I got your number, buddy.
Anytime I did something wrong, they'd send me to her class, and she taught detention. So like, dude, like I in elementary school, it was like, let me get out of here and be my own person. And then, you know, my mom, she didn't really, she's not fully, she doesn't have a degree. Mm-hmm. You know, she doesn't have all the education. She grew up, you know, real simple, like how my dad did, but a little bit more Americanized, you know. And she's worked hard her whole life too. She works with kids now, and she's worked with kids for her whole life. But I think that going back to success, if I can feel like my mom and dad feel like I've done something, then I feel like I have a successful feeling.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but it's not a place that you reach, because it's something that you have to continue to work for.
Right. And as an artist, I'm never happy at where I'm at. Like I feel like, I think, Steve Jobs said that if he didn't have that thing that told him he needs to do better than what he just did, then he would never be in the position that he is. Every time I do something, a new project, pictures are amazing, content's amazing, and made this new product, and people are like, oh, this is amazing. And I think, I could do that better.
I just had it's funny that you're saying this, because my friend Willie, we just had this whole conversation. We're sitting outside in the front, and he's like, Adrian, you need to just, it's okay to rest sometimes, and it's okay to be proud of what you've built. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I mean, Willie, I'm proud, but I got a lot of work left in me, man. Mm-hmm. I don't have to take it easy, and I do take breaks. I think he was worried about me, and he was speaking to me from a place of concern. And I'm like,
right.
I'm like, Willie, it's on Tuesday, I'm gonna have a podcast for 2 or 3 hours, depending on how much I feel like doing.
Right.
That's for me. Or I went to the gym this morning. Nobody, like, I have my own hours that I set. Like, I promise you, I'm good.
You're good.
But I have, if we go into the room over there in the conference room, and you look in that on that glass, it's written with ideas and structure and operations and things to fix and upcoming things to do.
Right.
But that gives you a sense of life. And to me, that's also part of success, is the grind.
Right.
I appreciate the grind. I love the grind. And I don't think it's unhealthy for me.
No.
And I think that the more I build here, now I'm like, okay, cool. I'm getting this to the point where it is running independent of me. Mm-hmm. Now I got a blank canvas somewhere else. And
those ideas that you put on the wall, those things, like, they're in there. Like, on my phone, if I have an idea, like the idea of Come Art Me Bro for the podcast name, that was a name that I had just written down probably 2 years ahead of time. I had no idea what I was even going to use it for. And when I was trying to come up with a name, I was like, let me go down my list. And all these names that I told people, hey, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh, Come Art Me Bro, that sounds great. Like ideas and things come back to you later on. And I think that it's an ongoing process. But do I ever feel happy or like content? Like, my mom told me, oh, you're doing so well, you're very successful. I'm like, Mom, I am not successful. Like in comparison to like what I want to be successful,
or like, you know, that you haven't reached that. You're still limiting. If you say, okay, I'll give you an example. People tell me congratulations all the time, and all I say, my response typically, I say what you want, is not yet,
right?
Because congratulations is there's a finale, right? To me. Right. There's a finale. We're done with this. Congratulations.
You got here, right? Like, that's where you get to.
No, I'm just getting, and I'm like, no, I'm just getting started.
Right.
I'm just getting started.
Because you don't even know what's next, right?
Exactly.
Because even the Devious Elements business, even for my stuff, I'm not going to be doing clothing. I'm not going to be ahead of that forever. Like, I have other ideas. Devious Elements is going to be a catalyst for other things that I can work on. Whether the business is sold at some point, or I have that running as a working beast in itself, and I'm working on something else. Like, things are to how you can kind of, I don't know. I guess I'm working on a new product now. This is the first time you're going to hear about this product on here, okay? And the idea is going to get taken, okay? I'm sure.
Why do you think it's going to get taken?
Because it's such a good idea that people are like, why didn't I think of that already? But this is already going to be released in the next 2 weeks. So I've already done photos. I've already done. My idea was, so I wrote. My next product is having to do with charcuterie boards. Right?
Okay.
Charcuterie boards, you could say that they're like pretty. A lot of people do them now. A lot of, like,
okay, yeah.
There's parties and
of course all
kind of things from like young to old, right? I had an idea that because I'm old skateboarder too and skater too.
So you're gonna put a charcuterie board and a skateboard. I'm stealing this shit.
Gone. So I thought I had the word charcuterie board in my head, and I always hear the word board, and I never think, how come you never see a skateboard charcuterie board, like a real made board into a charcuterie board, right? And it sounds like it is kind of a fringe idea, but
just don't put the grip tape on that side.
No. So I created a company called Sharkboards, and it's spelled SHARK because Jark was kind of weird to pronounce when. So the company's called Sharkboards, and I've been basically taking raw boards, and I do resin epoxy art on the bottom side. With different designs and different things that I get creative with. And then I resin epoxy the whole thing to kind of seal it up. And I have a whole branded, I use a heat brand on it too.
Okay.
Kind of like you brand a cow and make it into something that's workable for a, charcuterie board. But to brand that, to have the idea, to flush it out, to actually create the board, source the wood, I did all these samples that I ordered from smaller boards to larger boards, just raw board wood. See what worked with the product, move it forward from the idea. I just finished doing photography for I did like 10 different charcuterie boards. I did one.
So you're going in,
dude. I'm in.
So is this going to be similar to the shirts where it's drop shipping, where they have to, or are you going to prefabricate all of this and have it in storage?
Prefabricate a certain amount and then sell them on a limited basis. So I would sell them almost like a
piece of art,
right? So they would.
So are they series
it would be a series of different boards that I would do in certain times, and then certain boards would have things like I'm doing some gold foil on some of the boards. And I'm doing different designs that are...
What makes you pull the trigger? And I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off, but you just get my mind going. What makes you pull the trigger and say, this is a good idea, this is going to work, I'm going to go for it?
I think I have to first see what the market looks like, right? Like if I said shark board and charcuterie board, and I have no idea about the market of people I'm trying to put this product out to, I think that I don't know until I start asking people. And there's just certain things that I just have I just know that it's a good product. Like if I design a shirt that I was like, man, I like this a lot. And then I guess I don't expect people to like it. If they don't, they just like it or not. And they usually tend to like it. So like I figured, and again, I don't know, I haven't even gone to market yet, right? I haven't gone to put it out. Hopefully when this comes out, it's already on market. But I have an idea that I think I feel strongly about. And know that it'll reach people in certain ways, because not only from Top Chefs, which I've already been speaking to people who are on television that would use these boards, restaurants that are Michelin star restaurants that like the idea of the shark board because the owner of the restaurant used to be a skateboarder.
Yeah.
So I'm already putting things out to see what people think. And if I didn't get a good response, I think that I would have stopped it a long time ago. Gotcha. So the people that I have talked to, when I say the idea, they're like, and when I Google it, there's not one shark board, skateboard, charcuterie board out there.
That's cool. So I put up a post recently, and I had like 7 or 8 of my friends and I sent out texts of friends of mine who I figured had I basically the message was, hey, if you have $25,000 to $50,000 sitting around, what do you think about having different people come in to present or pitch a business idea, almost a la Shark Tank?
So that's the sketch I did, right? I sketched all these boards out individually first. And then I executed it. Like I bought the food. I actually did the full charcuterie board to do.
This is beautiful, man.
Thanks, bro. To do product photography. So my wife has had a lot of food in the last, because I did one for an esquite board with like corn and like Mexican like type stuff like that. I did like sushi.
I'm a believer already, and I've seen this for 20 seconds.
Thanks, bro.
When you were describing it, I was kind of like, okay, I could see it, but now seeing the presentation,
when you see it with the food on it, I didn't even know, and I got the feeling when I actually put the food on the boards, and I actually went, man, these actually are really nice when you put it out. So I'm working on all different kind of boards.
That's pretty cool. So So what I was saying,
and look.
Yeah, I got like 7 or 8 friends that agreed that they would go in $25,000 to $50,000, and I wanted to have different people come in and present like Shark Tank.
This is the packaging.
This is something I would definitely go for.
So I've even bought multiple ways to package this to see how I can package it.
So you're a designer, bro.
And these are all sourced from like my manufacturers from different countries or locally.
This is on Instagram? Where is this?
That's on my, I have a page called Sharkboard DE. You can go follow.
Why DE?
Devious Elements.
Oh.
I'm keeping it within the umbrella.
Why did you say a second ago you felt Devious Elements was failing?
I don't think it's failing. I think that I always feel
like it's failing.
Like I always feel like
beautiful, by the way. Beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro.
Seriously.
And then it even comes with a certified certificate with an embossed stamp with a hologram number on it. Bro, I'm like going full on luxury stuff. I think every artist always kind of feels like they're not doing as good as they can be, and their work is not as great as they think it is. I think that edge kind of keeps me humble in a way. Like I think you had said to one of your guests before, like, how do you feel when people like your stuff, when people tell you encouraging things? And I feel like throwing up and pooping at the same time. I swear to you, bro. Like it's a weird, like I'm not one of those guys who's like, oh yeah, I'm great.
So right now, when I said how nice that was, what were you thinking?
I'm using the bathroom, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, well, I could take it from you because, I know you like that. We're friends. So like I can appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
But when you get those people, like how people I'm sure that come and see you, oh my gosh, like you're amazing. Like what's your stuff?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay,
yeah. When
great.
people are blowing smoke,
Man.
I'm just like, you're gassing me up for something else, or you're not being authentic. You smile.
I get it. No, I get it. And even my mother telling me, oh, you're successful. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not yet successful. Like I need to figure out something beyond this.
Yeah.
And it's not what I want yet.
Of course.
So I don't know. I don't think that I'm doing bad at all in any of the case. I think our numbers have quadrupled since before the pandemic. I'm not doing bad at all. But do I feel like I kind of get a little stagnant? Like a little that I have to. The reason why I created this new product, I just needed a new idea. I needed to work on something, and I was already working on epoxy resin for projects for myself. That's the pivot that I have.
I want to go. Where do you produce this stuff? This is
my house.
But
Yeah.
you have a house, or do you have an apartment?
I have a house. Yeah. I
Oh
live in
yeah.
a
So
house,
you can.
It's my home.
yard.
Yeah. We got the backyard and the little shed in the back.
Oh, I want to check out your.
Dude, you got to come over one day. We'll barbecue and we'll do some.
No, I want to see work, man. I want to see work. Yeah.
But you see, you come over. I can't work.
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay. We could do some wood.
I'll bring my camera, and that way I'm like, listen, I'm here for content, bro. Just work.
I would love that, bro. Now, because I started working on epoxy type work, and I started finding wood places, and I started just getting creative with it. I don't know. I didn't have any intention. One of my first pieces I did, it was just a big circle probably about that wide. They call them cookies. They're just slices out of the tree, right? I took that from neighbor's house that they had cut down a tree, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to use for this, but
I'm gonna put it away.
I'm going to use it for something.
Yeah.
It just sat there, dried, and I ended up using a chisel, and I kind of set out my placements and things, and I chiseled this thing down like in layers and kind of made it like kind of this thing. I'll show you a picture later. I put LED lights inside of it. I turned it into this thing that I call a galaxy wall, and it looks like now I have to show you. It's basically I have to look for it later.
That's fine.
It's just artwork that I like working on that I then learned how to work with epoxy and like messing with it and how it dries, and you're supposed to take a torch to it and kind of take all the bubbles out. That's always cool. But artist friends were like, dude, why don't you work with resin? And it was so intimidating. You have to put two mixes together, mix them up with a certain, temperature, and it's like very intimidating. I started learning how to do that with my artwork and finishing it off with resin on the artwork to kind of seal it. And I got used to it that way. It made my artwork look just glass in the front. And I started using that on the wood pieces that I was producing. And these are things that I did for myself.
Like that guy has resin on it.
Yeah. things. Oh yeah, nice and solid. I mean, it's a difference between, and I bet you it's heavy.
Heavy as shit. It's a solid piece of wood. My friend Javi from he's an IT guy, and he was making stuff like that in his yard. He posted online. I was like,
beautiful.
I'll buy it.
No, it's beautiful. Guys that work on that stuff really inspired me to try to figure out something in a different medium to like work with anything. Like I didn't know what to use. I didn't know how to be creative in a way that I get out of my comfort level. And it turned into the sharkboard thing because I've been working on so many epoxy things that I got comfortable with. Man, I can reproduce something that I can actually go to market with that won't be that hard to scale for what I'm looking for. And I think I could achieve this. And again, going back to like, how do I know if it's going to work or not? I don't know until I do it. You know, I got to do it. Like when it comes out for these boards, you know, I might sell a couple. If I sell one or two, I'm happy.
But isn't that with most things that you've ever attempted in your life is you won't know how it comes out until you do it. And I think where people fall short is that they overthink and they convince themselves not to even try because they tell themselves it's going to fail before they've even made the attempt. They haven't
psyched themselves out before they even do it. I'm not going to try to do this because I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm like, how do you know? Like when I worked at the agency in Atlanta, I remember I was trying to transfer into the Hollywood office here. I was dying to come back to South Florida. I was already over Atlanta. The snow, I was done. And I was trying to transfer. I couldn't transfer. And my boss, one of the conversations she had with me was, what if you move and you transfer and then you fail? She said it just like that. She wanted to keep me there. I did a lot of work in the office in Atlanta. They did not want me to leave. And I said, well, if I fail, then at least I tried. Like, at least I tried to do it. Like, how would I know if I can't fail if I didn't even try to do it? And look where I'm at now. Like, I did it and I just pushed at it. But if I never would have done it, I would have probably still been figuring out these shitty jobs and like contractor jobs to try to do. You know, it just works out in a way that I think people just don't. People see so much success on social media that they think
that there was no failure or trial.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Hey, Marina. I'm being recorded on a podcast right now. Can I call you back?
Sorry, say that again?
I'm on a podcast right now. Can I call you back?
Yes, I'm so sorry.
No worries. It's cool. I figured I'd answer because it'd make it easier to tell you.
Thank you so much.
No problem. I'll. What time is it? Is it 2 or it is 3? Oh, good timing. I'll call you when I get out of here.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Bye. See, now was a client calling about to go over some stuff for prints I was doing already. So just a follow up on that. But like, if you don't go and do it, right? If you're not actually trying to put yourself out there to try to, I know people, it's such a phrase that's used so often. You got to have to fail all the time to learn, and you got
to fail forward,
right? And it sounds so easy to fail, right? It sounds like we'll just get up and just move on to the next thing or try to figure it out and move on. I mean, it sucks. It sucks to fail. It sucks to see nothing being, I said, running 1,000,000 miles to have 2 inches, right? Every year, just busting your ass to just see a little bit of growth. But that little bit of growth, I mean, you can't, I would say you can't pay for that, but there's such a value in just that little step forward that you just have to just keep slowly going forward, and then eventually you'll be over here, you don't even notice it. So I think that's really helped me to kind of move on and go forward with this, is just knowing that I have failed. This might not work, but at least I know what my foundation is. I know what I have for a business. I know what my value to what I'm putting into it is, and as long as I know and be confident in what I'm doing, I think that I don't second guess myself a lot. Like, I really have to be like, you're good at, I do like this thing in front of the mirror. I think they used to do it on 30 Rock, or Alec Baldwin used to look in the mirror and go talk himself up a little bit. Like, you son of a bitch, you're the best, you're the best thing that ever happened. You look at me and you're like, you're going to do this. And I swear I do that to myself on a regular basis to amp myself up, because I know I'm like my best encouragement, and it sounds funny, but to some people to do that, but it really is talking to yourself and making sure that you can get past the next stupid step, that like you're not going to just be like, I'm done, and just not want to move on for the next, like know that you're going to fail. For example, my wife, when the first times when we were here for it was her first hurricane coming from South Dakota, and knowing that she was expected to, like, she didn't know what to expect. Are we the roof is gonna fly off? Like, what do we have to do? And I'm seasoned. Like, I'm cool and calm, collected. Don't worry about it. We're good. I can put stuff up to wait till last minute. And, she was just like she didn't know what to expect. And I told her, look, what you have to be calm about and know what's going to happen is the power will turn off. It will turn off. Don't think that it's not. So when you expect it to turn off, you're going to feel okay about it because you know it's going to turn off. And so knowing that she had that expectation, I told her it is going to turn, like, there was no question. It always happens. So power turned off, and we're like, see, and we were prepared for it. Like, we knew it was only temporary for it to go by, and that she knew what to expect going forward. And I think that once you have that thought of like, you will see things come up that are not going to be pretty and glossy like you see on social media all the time. You're going to have things that like affect your career, your mental health, your everyday. I sometimes I feel like Howard Hughes, just as a recluse sitting in my office at home, and people, they know already. They're not going to get me. There's two things that they know. Every one of the clients, even the client that I have, right? She called me at 3 o'clock, right? She knows that she's not calling me before 12 o'clock because I do not get up before 12 o'clock. And that I'm not going to go out of my house to go to Wynwood. So if they know the expectation of what's happening, then everybody can kind of fall in line and figure out things like going forward, right? Yeah. So she knows to call me after a certain time. I have a certain expectation of what to look for.
So expecting the failures when you come into business, expecting these things that are inevitable that will happen. I could tell you the last 6 months here, we're in July now. The last 7 months have been a rude awakening. Like you were saying, it's not always pretty. It's not always glamorous. It's not always a podcast room and fun times and growth. No, we've been through a period where a few months ago, I was looking at a dwindling bank account, and I didn't understand why the money wasn't coming in the way it should.
Right.
I'm looking at a pretty large payroll every 2 weeks, and I'm like, we're down to 4 payrolls.
And every penny counts.
We're down to 3 payrolls. We're down to 2. There's 1 more payroll. And then that's when I start realizing, oh, this is real. And then I start looking at this little flamingo, and I'm like, oh, wow, I will, because I'm looking at my flamingo. I'm looking at Coinbase. I'm looking at
Coinbase.
I'm looking at Coinbase, and I'm looking at Robinhood, and I'm saying, how much do I have here? How much can I get rid of? How many more? Is that another payroll in there? How much do I have in my bank account? What can I sell? Right. And I'm just like, and then that's when your mind starts realizing, wow, as a business owner, like how much value you put into your business itself and what you're willing to sacrifice.
Right.
And the stress that comes with it. And then how do you figure it out despite all that stress that's mounting? Because you can't just say, fuck it, I quit.
And how do you maintain it? Like, how do you keep going and not having next month comes and you're just like, we're in the same predicament that we were in from the month before.
Yeah, luckily, the luck that I had was I had the right people to call because I didn't. It was more of a billing issue. I had a falling out of one of my front office employees who was. There's one thing I've really learned is you need to make sure that everybody is cross trained in a business.
Yeah.
Because you can't have the vitality of your business dependent on one person.
Yeah. Of course.
I mean, it's easy to say.
Once that person's gone, I was telling you a story earlier about one of my manufacturers coming to me and asking me if I wanted a better deal on the side. And I was like, nope, because I don't want to mess up my clients.
Yeah.
And I'd rather take the hit and learn knowing that I know what happens if I take this like this, right? If I knew from other experiences that people are going to leave me burnt and, leave me with my clients with their hands holding out, I don't want that situation. So I tend to not try to do the same thing twice for my business stuff. And that's really helped me going forward, especially since there's a lot of downs and then you really have to just remember those downs and not remember like all the good all the time. Like I get it, everything, trying to stay positive, trying to do what you have to do. It's gonna be a shitty time. You're gonna be depressed sometimes. You're gonna not want to do this anymore, and that's just real life. You know, you hear people on different podcasts and everything's all worked out. It's all happy and like you just gotta be positive. Yeah, that's not fucking real life.
That's not real life.
Real life is hard, man. Real
It's
life.
conflict. It's hard conversations. It's confrontation. It's constant communication, and it's knowing how to negotiate and how far you're willing to give. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that has a lot to do with it too,
Yeah.
because you have to know where you have to draw the line and say, hey, like this is as much as I could give, and if that's not good enough for the other person, then you have to part ways and walk away from it.
Yeah.
And it's okay. And it's business. This is not, people take this so personal sometimes. And it's like, bro, you have to honor the business. This thing right here, this is the umbrella that I, as a CEO, have to take care of. Why? Because this is nothing more than an umbrella that's protecting a bunch of people that sit under it. And if I'm not a good steward of this, then everybody fails underneath.
Right.
And so I have to be responsible for this guy.
I call it the Wu-Tang theory, right? Like if you're like Wu-Tang Clan, right? They got all the members, right? Everybody's under Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
The RZA, Jizza, everybody's under. They do their own thing. But if they mess up that Wu-Tang name, then the whole thing's burnt, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to want to deal with them? But that name has just grown and grown and grown and has that reputation. So everybody has that same reputation for now, you know? It's a constant change, I think, that, you know, even just being able to talk about it, because I don't get many opportunities to just sit down and just have conversations like this. I'm not in therapy anymore.
Yeah.
I've gotten over those things that I can kind of just like move past and not have to feel all these pressures from. So dude, I appreciate being able to sit down and like having just a nice, extensive, intelligent, just intelligent conversation nowadays.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, even though your phone went off, whatever, and we've looked at our phone like twice, but to sit down with somebody and exchange ideas, that's why this thing in here has been the biggest investment. And I tell people, hey, they sell little mics that you can just set up your camera and you don't need this whole setup. I tell people all the time, dude, do a podcast. Even if you don't post it, when you invite people, like Dwayne Wade's chef, UFC fighters, forensic psychologists, people who
knows he'll be like, and that's just the start of who's going to like sit down just to have a good conversation, you know?
But it's crazy because then you put on these headphones and then you're just in a different zone.
Yeah.
You're in a different
It even
zone.
feels like I'm not even used to hearing my own voice on the monitor. You know, like I never even used to do my podcast with my headphones on. I used to keep it in the speaker.
Oh, really?
Because I just felt like I just had it. I wouldn't hear properly. I don't know. So I would just do it and just listen. And even just like having the headphones on for a while, like you don't even realize like now it's been like a little while we've been sitting talking.
Yeah.
I haven't had headphones like this on for forever now. Yeah. It's a cool different experience.
Yeah,
bro.
it puts you in a different zone. It's a different sensory experience for sure.
No, and you know, if anything I can give as far as to anybody listening that might take encouragement from it, you know, I think one of my biggest things is, and I swear I'm gonna just, the thought's gonna come out of my head as I speak. I'm trying to think to it. I think you will fail. You will have shitty days. You're gonna want to quit more than you are doing good, but you know, those million miles you run, those 2 inches again are just precious, man. You're doing good. You can go forward with this. Don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Don't take everything seriously. Get off of social a little bit. Like go meet people. Like do things that will interact to give your body, mind, and soul a little bit more pleasure instead of overworking yourself. And that might just be a long ass statement, but yeah.
I'll cut it. I'll clip it. That's posted.
It'll just like do good and happy day.
Everything will suck and you will smile in the end. Goodbye.
Right. Tag me on social media.
There you go.
No, it's cool, bro. I really appreciate you having me here, man.
Well, no, I appreciate you coming in here, Tony. So it's at Devious Elements Apparel.
Yep. You can find me on social, devious.elements.apparel for my Instagram.
Oh, what about your website?
DeviousAelementsApparel.com.
There you go.
Yep.
There it is.
Google me.
And any discount codes? No, you guys don't get discount codes.
You gonna bleep this out later? I already gave out enough coupon codes today. No, just joking.
Sorry, guys. Support local.
Yeah.
Pay full price. Get it over with.
You will get your money's worth. And I swear to you, if you send me a message, I'll take a picture and I'll say hi to you.
All right, take it easy, guys. Have a good one.
That's awesome. That was great.